to not be so much under sunshine law and talk story and, really have those conversations that are important, and really appreciate board members, EOEL staff, and thank you to our West Ed facilitators for being here and for planning this morning. So, we have new board members, Dr. Ephraim Schwab and Ben Naki, both Head Start Collab, Head Start Association. And Lisa Hagee is from DOE, so hopefully she'll be here. And Deanna Dolge, I think she's coming about it late. So she's from Hawaii Association of Independent Schools. And I know Dana Luca is on her way, so we have people coming. But I'm going to give it over to them because they have things planned. So that's
Wonderful. Mahalo. Thank you, Elaine. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We are so excited to be here with you today. And we have what we think is a fun and informative time planned together that's also very productive. I'm Dr. Breon Dotson, and I'm joined by my colleague, Krista Murphy. And also on our team, we have Lauren and Jatiri, who aren't with us today, but who are an integral part of this project. We'd love to start by just going around the room and having everybody very quickly say their name and the organization or agency that they represent. So
can I ask you to
Yes.
ask Alana first, because she's on. Alana is 34 weeks pregnant and she decided to stay home.
Alana, would you like to get us started?
I just got to my office and I'm connecting my computer to my Zoom. So I don't have my camera on right now. If you want to come back to me so I can have the camera on, if not, I can go right now.
Sure, it's your choice. We'll come back to you.
Okay, thank you.
Settle, and then we'll start.
Aloha mai kako. I'm Kau'i Burgess. I am retired. I care for my granddaughter and provide early learning to her. I am on just multiple boards and helping there, keeping busy. Oh, no, this is what I do. I'm sorry. I am a business owner. I just try not to work, but I own a Club Pilates studio. We're opening up in Mililani, and that's what I do. I'm hiring. That's what I do. Aloha.
Thank you. Next time, maybe you can lead us all in.
Oh,
Pilates intro.
Yeah, no, but you know what? My interest in being on the board is because I retired from Kamehameha schools. And where I lobbied for early learning, which was the school's #1 goal. And so we lobbied for universal public preschools. And that's the reason I'm interested in being on the board, just wanting to oversee the work we do around Act 46. Wonderful. Aloha mai. Thank you.
Aloha mai kako, omono anakua rosno, mai komoko kiape. And I'm here representing Kamehameha Schools. Why am I on the early learning board? Born and raised in Hawaii, oldest child. So there's a lot of kuleana that comes in when you talk about caring for your family and trying to make the community a better space. I have two keiki. I have a 24-year-old daughter and a 20-year-old son, which is my baby. And I also have a 3-year-old granddaughter. So invested in this multi-generational goal of improving early learning for generations to come.
I'm Yuko. I'm the Director of Executive Office on Early Learning. I'm really excited to be here with our team. Who will introduce themselves later. I could talk forever about why I'm I guess. I mean, so many stories. I'm one of 5. I believe that education can provide opportunities. I've seen how early learning has helped change the trajectory for my own children and myself. And I've utilized multiple supports in raising my children, and so I know how important it is. And many other reasons.
I'm Lindsay Heathcock. I'm a pediatrician at Kapiolani, and so I'm a mom also. I have a 7 and 3-year-old. So I have navigated the systems of early learning myself and help my patients navigate it too. So it's really helpful for me to see how the system works and how I can plug my patients into it. And I see every week how excited kids are to be in school. So it's been really awesome to be a small part of that.
I'm Ethan Schwab. I'm the Head Start Collaboration Office Director. I work with the Executive Office of Early Learning. I work closely with our Head Start programs. And my connection to early childhood education, I do have twins. They were born early. I participate with early intervention services when they're younger. They're doing great. And, you know, I see the value of just building out that foundational years of their life and what that means to them and their future success. And I see it happening in my own house, now 8 years old. So I can see that developmental continuum going on in their own lives.
Aloha. My name is Ben Naki. I work at Parents and Children Together. We operate early Head Start and Head Start on Hawaii Island. For the purpose of this meeting, I'm sitting on as the Head Start Association president. Well, I am the president of the Head Start Association. So the Head Start Association is consisted of 6 grantees in Hawaii, also 4 grantees in the Outer Pacific. In Hawaii specifically, serve around 2,800 children, ages actually birth, even prenatal, but birth to 5 years old. So for me, I think early learning kind of found me. I grew up, my grandma moved from Molokai to help my father, and she was the babysitter for everybody's kids. So little kids were always in our home and whatnot. And then I got into family resources. That's what my undergrad is in at Manual. And I started as a home visitor with no kids. I didn't have any kids, but I was a father facilitator. So my primary role was to engage young fathers in the lives of their newborns, which for me, I felt I could do. But a lot of the dads would tell me, like, you don't have any kids, you know, and I'm like, well, no, but you know, I got some things I can offer and whatnot. I really want to kind of support you. Nonetheless, I ended up moving over to Head Start and here I am now. So I think kind of full circle, you know, I grew up around, little babies around the home. So it's nice to be able to be part of that now. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Similar early learning, I think, found me. I tell my staff a lot that I need that. Ironically, I did not go to preschool. I was one of those where, my parents were, born in the Philippines, came here, and they just, wanted to watch us, how it is. And I still see that today. I am a preschool director. I'm on the board, but I'm also a preschool director of Kiki Care Center, a preschool in Pearl City. It's hard to believe we're going on our 19th school year. I have 4 children of my own. Let me think, 21, 20, 17, and 14. So definitely through the years, you get to know the families as a director, and you hear the stories. You have those who have, subsidy, who are really trying to make ends meet. And then of course you have those private families that can pay. So I see all of that, the whole gamut. And obviously we can see hands down the benefits of children who go to preschool. I have friends who are kindergarten teachers, 100% the benefit of going to preschool. It's night and day for those who attend preschool in their future. So definitely want to continue to be a proponent for that. There's so many families like my own mother who feel that, they can just watch their children at home. Even if they get free state subsidy, they turn it down, some of them, believe it or not, saying that they can take care of their own children at home, which, by any means, that totally could be true. But we know that socialization, you can't beat that in addition to the academics and all of that you can get. But definitely just want to be part of, just the solution and to get more families into preschool. Yeah, so thank you.
Aloha mai kako. My name is Stephanie Shipton. I think I am sitting in one of the city and county of Honolulu seats. I am a mom. I have a 5.5-year-old and a 3-year-old. So a kindergartner and a preschooler. And I'm a farmer. We have a family farm in Wailua. And also a policy, strategy, facilitation consultant. So lots of different hats. I'm excited about serving on the board because I stepped back from a lot of education policy and systems work when my kids were very young. And so this feels like a way to be able to come back, be supportive, in an area that directly affects our family and so many families in our community. We've been really fortunate to be able to access resources like programming at Papahanau'ula, at Kikio'Ka'aina, at different types of school and care facilities. And so it feels timely, it feels urgent, it feels important. We're just excited to be able to be here.
Aloha, my name is Solma Gandhi. I have lived on Hawaii Island for, it's getting close to 30 years now. I also have, there's several sets of twins in this room. So I also have a set of twins. They just turned 18 and we have just transitioned them to university. They were born and raised on the east side of Hawaii Island. I have firsthand experience as a mother of changing my kids' childcare 3 times within a 12-13 month period. As well as the challenges of trying to get additional support when there were learning challenges for my kids, being on a neighbor island as well. In the beginning of my career, I was a director at the Healthy Start program. So I've been involved in early intervention and child development, worked at Kapiolani Medical Center, in the schools, a number of different places. And right now, my current role in my regular day job is in philanthropy, working at a foundation, supporting early brain development. So.
Morning, everybody. I think I'll start with, I'm also the father of twins.
Same age.
Yeah. Mine just started at UH Manoa, so we have kind of an empty nest. So, and I represent the University of Hawaii. I'm the executive director at Hawaii P20, which is an organization at the system office of the University of Hawaii. And we sort of coordinate education efforts across the pipeline. Most folks know us for a lot of the high school to college efforts, but like, I guess you guys know that we're also involved in early education and always have been. In fact, P20's origins, like the biggest grants we ever got was a Kellogg grant, but yeah, P3 Kellogg grant. And so like we've been engaged in early care and education for a long time. Professionally, like my connection and my belief in the importance of early learning came from when I was the school principal. That's when you can really see sort of a difference and the importance of quality early care and education and readiness.
Joni?
Hi, hello, sorry, I'm late. I was taking a tour of Prince Kuhio Elevator. My name is Joni Onishi. I'm representing Hawaii County. I'm a retired administrator from Hawaii Community College, and at Hawaii Community College, they have an early childhood program, which I was involved with, and went through many challenging times with it. I'm also a grandparent to 5 grandchildren. We have, 2 now in a licensed babysitter or daycare, and then preschool and at an elementary school. And so that's my part-time job now, is in the afternoons. I'm supposed to pick them up. Okay, but I can see that the importance of early childhood, education. I've seen it, with my daughters, the importance of them going to, preschool. And I've also seen the difference between having licensed childcare provider versus an unlicensed in their role. But yeah, I'm happy to be here and, you know, do whatever I can to promote the early learning. Thank you.
Dana?
Hey, good morning. Sorry, I was late too. I'm Dana Luca with DHS. I'm representing Director Yamane. I'm the Childcare Regulation Program Administrator. I oversee the licensing and quality programs. But we also are the lead agency for the Child Care Development Fund, which is the childcare subsidies. And then the childcare subsidy program also oversees the Preschool Open Doors state funded program. I first started my career with the state as a childcare licensing worker. And then I became the unit supervisor and then moved up to the childcare program office where I was a licensing program specialist. And now in this position since 2022. I did go to preschool, and the preschool that I went to is still in operation, which is amazing. It's across city. And yeah, you know, our goal is to ensure the children's health and safety. So it's, you know, it's nice to hear, Joni, that and Charlotte, you guys can see the, you know, the importance of licensed and regulated care and all the benefits of that.
Alana?
Aloha, good morning, everyone. Sorry I couldn't be there in person. You can't tell based on my Zoom screen, but I am 34 weeks pregnant. If I stand up, I'm probably out to here. But I am the Early Childhood Education System Coordinator at Kauai Planning and Action Alliance, and I am the County of Kauai representative on the Early Learning Board. Other than becoming, you know, a soon-to-be participant of the early learning system with the little baby that's growing inside of my tummy, I'm born and raised on Kauai, big advocate for access to preschool programming. Not only to support the early brain development of our children, but also as an economic driver to support families in the workplace. I have multiple nieces and nephews who I've seen benefit from program expansion of the Preschool Open Doors, allowing them to attend preschool and get them ready for kindergarten. So thank you all for allowing me to be on Zoom today. I look forward to the discussion.
Thank you. Well, it's very clear to see why each of you sits here on the Early Learning Board. We're also grateful to have partners and EOEL also attending. If you wouldn't mind, please sharing your name and position briefly, and then we'll move on with our agenda.
I'll start with Aloha. I'm Marlena Gross, the newest league member to EOEL, Education Specialist, where you help me to oversee the public pre-K. Because that has jokes, I moved here from Hawaii, but I am from the South. And I make that distinction because having access to pre-K programming for a majority has always been a focus and has always been truly accessible. So moving out to Colorado, and then over to Wyoming and now here, it's just amazing how it's different from state to state, where kindergarten is not free all day. Just being a part of that, helping that make that so in Colorado, and same for pre-K. I went to pre-K. My boys went to pre-K, and I'm so excited that they did that because they actually are involved in the careers that was actually nurtured in pre-K. My oldest is a pilot for the Navy, but his first love is oceanography, marine biology. Finished him at the Naval Academy, and my youngest just graduated from Penn State and as a paleontologist. So he loves dinosaurs. So don't have to stop doing what you love, and that was nurtured. Obviously, I was the teacher in pre-K, but that was nurtured in pre-K for them and in South, and I'm just so excited that they get to do that. And I identify as being 28 years old. But it's a pleasure.
I'm also 28 years old. Kara Castrovinci, most of you know me, I am the communication specialist for EOEL. I also am a parent. I have an 18-year-old son who's trying to figure out his life. So he's not quite sure what he's gonna do. And a 22-year-old daughter who within the last year decided she wanted to work in early childhood education. So she is actually working at a preschool in Minnesota where she lives in St. Paul at a Montessori school. So I'm excited for her. Yeah, I'm very excited to be here with all of you. I'll be taking some pictures today too, so don't be too careful.
Good morning, I'm Heather Barnhill. I'm a program specialist of the EOEL, and I've been working on the state plan update, so that's my focus.
Everybody, good morning, it's Jen Chow.
I'm Kelly Lenoy and I'm the business management officer. I'm Allison Hanley. I'm also a program specialist, closely with Heather on the state plan, and it's my first time coming in person, so I'm excited to not be too.
Morning, everyone. Ian Okamoto, workforce development specialist with and the institutional analyst.
Wonderful, thank you.
Kevin.
Hey.
So I'm Kevin Kabasala, the data processing municipal, basically the IT person.
Yes.
EOL.
We couldn't do any of this without you. Thank you. So thank you all for introducing yourselves. It's wonderful to hear a little bit about your own personal experiences and professional experiences with early learning. Wonderful to hear that there's so many sets of twins, so many 28-year-olds. And I know we're gonna have a wonderful day. And it's always important for us to start by giving voice to everybody in the room so that we can collectively contribute to our work today. So here are our outcomes for today. We're going to work on gaining foundational knowledge of developmentally appropriate practice and play-based learning. So starting with some fun, you can probably see the beautiful packages on your desk. So we're going to start by immersing ourselves in that. And then we're excited to share an update about the state plan revision and all the work that has gone into that, which many of you have been a participant in. And then finally, explore ways that you as the Early Learning Board can contribute to and support the state plan once it's completed. You can see over on the wall, we have a beautiful agenda also here, reiterating that the points that I just mentioned. And then finally, we'd love for you to look at our working agreements and to just silently decide which one you'd like to focus on today. We believe that these 5 agreements will help us maximize our time together, be collaborative and productive. And we do see these as living. So if there's anything else that you would like to add, please let us know, come up to us at the break. We'd be happy to include it. All right, so now I'm going to turn it over to Krista, who's going to walk us through understanding developmentally appropriate practice.
Thank you, Brianne. And I'm gonna ask you to see if we can get this added in chat for Alana.
Wonderful.
So Alana can engage and play with us too. So Alana, we're sending you some directions in chat about what we're going to be doing next, so you can engage from where you are. So it's such a great pleasure to be here today. My early childhood background, like many of you, I come from a huge family. My mom was one of 13, my dad was one of 9, and I'm the oldest grandchild on both sides. So I grew up just seeing everyone what to do. My mom was a preschool teacher. My grandma was a preschool teacher. I taught preschool, kindergarten, first grade, and been in this field all my life. I had the pleasure of serving on the National Association for the Education of Young Children Governing Board early on in my career, which was an amazing opportunity. So we are going to talk a little bit about what is so important and different about that birth through age 5 grade span. And many of us, when we think about school, we can remember back like maybe kindergarten, first grade, those memories are kind of blurry. We don't really remember what it's like to be 0 to 5. But we do know from research, especially within the last 30 years, the tremendous amount of brain growth that goes on. But we also know from research over the last hundreds, millennia of years, what human development, what the pace of human development is and what children need. So we want to make sure we're really balancing those two and understanding that the difference between a 3-year-old and a 4-year-old, a 4-year-old has been on this world 25% longer than a 3-year-old. So when you think about the differences of what we're expecting, and so then the difference between a 4-year-old and a 6-year-old, they're not just smaller grade school age children, right? Their bodies are growing at the same time as their brains are developing. So we want to really think about what is best for that whole child and their whole development. So while I was on the board, I had the honor of contributing to the update to their position statement on developmentally appropriate practice. And if you're not familiar with that term, it's one you will hear a lot in the early childhood world. It's a shorthand for a collective shared understanding about what is best for children in this age range. And here's an excerpt of some key pieces of developmentally appropriate practice. And the first one is that play is central to learning. So we're going to spend a little bit of time today remembering what it's like to be engaged in play and grounding ourselves in the deep, rich opportunities that come through play. As Mr. Rogers said, play is the work of childhood. We know that children are active and motivated learners. We know that all developmental domains are important and they're also interrelated. So early childhood, which is really spanning birth to age 8, is a time when children are making connections deep. That's how their brain is growing, making those neural connections. And so the learning doesn't appear segmented the way it does as we move on through the education system. A child engaged in cleaning a baby in a water tub will be making important connections about physics, about math, about caring for others. It's all interrelated. Equally important is understanding the individual child. So development needs to reflect cultural and individual differences. So our early childhood educators, whatever setting they may be in, have that really important job of knowing about child development in general, and also building from deep curiosity, understanding and relationships with the individual specific children in their care. Who is that child? What are they interested in? What's important to their family and to their community? We know across our lifetimes that belonging fosters learning. So if that child does not feel safe and cared for, they won't be learning in the environment that they're in. And over, we ask families, what's important to you? What's important to you when you're looking for care for your children, when you're looking for socialization opportunities? Safe and loved are the first two that we think about. And then we know technology has a role in all of our lives, probably sometimes more of a role than we wish that it had. And technology can be a useful tool for early childhood, but technology cannot replace hands-on learning. There's been some fascinating studies out of Stanford. They created a whole online opportunity to teach children a new language based on understanding of when the ear stops hearing the differences between languages. And their default model was a grad student reading a book in their home language. And then they had this very fancy computer system that was supposed to teach children everything. And their control model was the one that was the most effective, because the human brain is really wired for that interpersonal interaction. That's what we tie learning to. So we are going to spend some time today reconnecting with play. And before we dive in, I invite you to think of a positive play experience you had as a child. Could be all the way back to your early childhood years, could be teens. One positive play experience, and what do you remember about that play experience? So give you a moment deep in the archive. Were you playing alone or with friends? Were you playing inside or outside? And most importantly, was there an adult telling you what to do? Or were you initiating that play? And I'm seeing some nods for that last one. Welcome, good morning. For many of us, our favorite play memories come from, and I'm a child of the 80s. We used to be out as roller skating around the neighborhood until I saw where all the bikes were piled up, and then that was the house that I went to, right? So our most treasured play memories are often when we were in control. We were coming up with the rules, generating a game at recess, playing with our cousins, possibly playing with a loved one, a grandparent. I had many, my grandfather was an engineer and had all these old weird parts in his house that we used to construct stuff out of. But really that play as an organic opportunity to just go with what comes. Those are the memories that stand out as the most important to most of us. And Stuart Brown, who does a lot of fantastic research about play, one of his quotes that I love is the idea that we are designed to be lifelong players. We benefit from play at any age. So I know that you're going to really enjoy the opportunity that we have today to dig right in and start playing. So I am going to invite us to engage in a play experience. And this quote here is from Dr. Walter Drew. He is the leader of the Institute for Self-Active Education. If you've ever been to the NAUIC National Conference, he's often there. He looks a little bit like Dumbledore. He often wears this green velvet cap and he has a long white beard. And he has a book called From Play to Practice, and he outlines the model that we'll be sharing here today. And he's a huge champion for what he calls self-active, what I call self-directed play. And he shares that play's intrinsic qualities include spontaneity of the spirit, thinking deeply, feeling intensely, and building a trust in one's intuitive self. So you may have noticed that on your tables are beautiful little packages. And Lisa, welcome.
I'm sorry for being late.
No, you're here just in time. So we're going to invite you. Oh, no, wait, I'm gonna send people over there. Let's see, Stephen and Stephanie, if I could invite you to move over to the table where we're laying if you're not finished at this table, and then everyone should have in front of them. And I'll invite you first before we open up the packages, if you want to move your electronics out of the way under the table. We can take a little break from all that outside world, and we won't need them for the next hour. Yes.
All right, you sit there a lot. I don't know the directions yet.
Okay.
I have so much.
Someone got into our.
Oh, we have someone who's joined in. We'll let our team apologies those of you who have joined online.
So for people online, Alana is on our board, and so for this morning meeting, Alana is allowed to participate and everybody else can be observers. So thank you very much.
Can you hold?
Oh, yeah. Yes. Yeah.
That's okay, we don't need the screen for the part that we're about to engage in. Always flexible. All right, so we are about to engage in a loose parts play experience. And then we will go through a cycle of stages. So the first part, we are going to engage in solo play. You'll have about 10 minutes. And in just a second, I'll invite you to untie, not yet, in just a second, I'll invite you to untie the scarf in front of you, the little bundle of excitement. And those are loose parts. What I ask for you is to set aside all of your outside connections and your technology, and even the person sitting next to you, and just engage in solo play. When you open your bundle and look 4 minutes. I'm gonna ask you to come to a pause in your play. And I'm going to pass around a journal page for you. I'm gonna take the next 4 minutes to just respond to this hot prompt of your solo play. go ahead and finish up your current thought, and then I'll invite you, we'll spend 2 minutes just quickly with an elbow partner, so pair up with the person next to you and just share a highlight of your reflection on that solo place.
Started out as a building. I started. Yeah. Yeah, I still have it down.
The done would be few steps. Oh.
I was not, grass.
One of my twins.
But it started.
Yeah. I can pull your attention back, please. Thank you. I thought I could turn off the lights, but that didn't. Sure. All right, for the next 10 minutes, you're going to engage in partner play. So you get an opportunity to share and create together. So with that same person that you were just talking, you may now combine your materials in whichever way appeals to you.
You plan. I am letting you plan. Oh, no, but
Are you okay if I use the coffee?
I was like. If we can make it, but it's. Yeah, it's been so three. Really, 3 hours. Was crazy. Organized. Maybe there's. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good.
Stand up. What do you want? Oh my God.
Well, yeah.
My bachelor's class, my knowledge, and my master's is in health development.
Try something else.
I'm trying to record it.
Yeah. We
Yes. These, sticks. And they would just be something the same. Science there, he got in, but then we had this. Yeah, the rest. Made me feel better.
See, so that's the other side. You're organizer, but you can also be on that side. Yeah.
I think it's better than. Right? Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I did actually. Well, let's figure out.
So features that I zero circular. They're on their.
I want to talk about a bunch of more.
Yeah.
Put down So what happens when you come up against something that frustrates you? Something that frustrates you.
Oh, I go straight to the meter. I go straight to the meter. That's the reason I always like this.
Where did you do?
I recognize problems. I said no. So just come to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the city role.
Yeah, so I have that. When, I think this position would be different.
Okay, why?
But I'm like my working.
Then she'll kind of take on the non. But I was saying this question she asked them because I have to go done by name. There's just Yeah, one more minute remaining.
What is pretty. Good. Yeah, yeah.
And we are going to go on a play tour now. See what our friends have done. So if everyone can stand up and join me in this corner of the room, please.
Gallery.
Please come gather over here.
Yes. Oh, that one's fun. Yeah, the fun. I think my parents do that.
Thanks.
All right, we'll start with this set right here. So let's, descend. You want us to introduce it? Yeah, what do you want to share about what you're playing with? I enjoy talking.
Just bringing up stories. But are you asking about what we created?
Whatever, there's no wrong way to share. No wrong way.
Well, I think what we created a little bit of a story that we joined together, so pretty nature-esque and. A caterpillar was created, and then joined into this other nature reserve, a gathering of hungry caterpillars, so there must be food there. There's a mushroom we created after we started talking to a tree and some others. Yeah.
Thank you. All right, we have to over here.
I think we actually had similar activities, and I don't know if we're just similar as well, but we just gravitated towards sorting. You know, I don't know if it's an adult thing that we have to sort, so I apologize, it may not be as creative per se, but no, sorting is definitely an activity that we promote at our preschool when, yeah. And it was interesting, may I share about?
Yeah.
Okay, so he did share that he's a little colorblind. So he has the left side, right, all of the funky colors. So he actually felt some anxiety, so which I thought was interesting. I felt calmness with mine, but I was like, oh my god, I felt anxiety, you know, I shouldn't feel, you know, having fun. So, but you did have fun, right?
Yeah, I think that's why I went to sorting to see, you know what, at least what I can do is try and sort as best as I could. That gave me some easiness to myself to deal with my anxiety. When I saw all the cut and the small pieces, I was like, oh god, this is a mess. So I was letting Cheryl, I automatically gravitated toward the blocks because I was like, this is my jam. This, I'll stack it. Yeah.
You can see how children like, you know.
Yeah.
All right, let's see.
Never joining any fun.
Okay, really, you want to do it? Yeah.
Well, we started off with our two little separate building projects, and Joni had a really good insight, you know, reminiscing about her grandson used to like to build forts, right? So she went to like, oh, what would be a nice fort that he would build? And then I was building a tower, so the fort tower concept kind of came together, and then I was reflecting on it, and we were looking at it and saying, hey, you know what, this is exactly what my kids would build at the beach, because, you know, there's a good side and a fortunate side to it. Is like, well, we got all these plastics on the beach nowadays. So our kids are finding sea glass, they're finding plastics, bottle tops, they're finding driftwood. And then if I were to see my kids playing on some of our beaches here in Hawaii, they don't think about those bigger issues, but they're gonna come and play in this way. And this is something that I could definitely see them creating.
Thank you.
It was fun.
Let's look at it, the group right behind you. We have a trio back here. Yeah.
Thirsty.
So our trio creation is right there by you. So we created a village, combining all three of our, I had the blocks as well, and the wire racks. And then we had some things from the back table to look like little fire pits in the inside. And then we did chicken coops, cause eggs are like gold here, I'm learning very. So we just had like all the things, and I enjoyed talking and sharing about just, everything our kids and what they would do. All the things, and I love the color too. Rio de Janeiro, that's what I was trying to say. With the colors, I love the colors that you had put together prior, so we kept that on top of my board blocks, and now it's not. It's like really colorful.
It was really funny when I first opened the package and saw all the colors. I was so excited because it felt creative. And then when the sticks wouldn't go through the buttons, I was like, I don't have to engineer anything. This is an art project. And so it was very, very calming. It was fun.
Great, let's move around to this side of the room. So follow me around this way. Show and tell to our name. All right, who was here? What can you share with us? That was Steve and I. I think our outdoor people. So Steve made this awesome surf wave. It's a shortboard dropping in. In the right spot. And then I have two small children, so I made a series of beach cabanas and like a surf resort. And then we were gifted these beautiful Mardi Gras beads that we turned into a cool. Oh, hey, come out here.
I think we just did conceptual work, but I think we made the choice to keep it 2D instead of 3D because everybody else was doing 3D. So we thought we'd buck the trend. And I think for us, we were just stacking in a random order. So yeah, there's no rhyme or reason or purpose. It was just more conceptual art. We'll call it conceptual art.
Yes, very just seeing what those materials can do.
Oh, and because I did help with them setting up yesterday, I knew that what was coming after, so I made an effort to keep things as organized as possible.
We are gonna do a little bit of cleanup. All right, come up right up here in the front.
You go. Oh, gosh, okay.
Right, she's already done.
So when I opened my bag, I got frustrated because I was so excited to play, but there were just colors and colors and colors. And I gravitated towards just starting to organize. And then I realized that if I keep organizing, I'm not gonna be able to play. So then I just started building. And I organized some and then just started building blocks. And then when we were put together, cause while I was doing my own, yeah. Cause while I was doing my own, I was looking at everybody like, I need that. So when we got to Hui Up, partner, I got so excited. And so I was like, I want to use all of this, and I just threw it on.
Yeah, and she said, I'm the organizer. I'm the organizer.
And so what I did was just ask for her help with removing all the colors so that I can make an ocean front and a green grass on the side with our hulla on the sides of the so-called house with feathers on it. But I have an ocean out front, we have an ocean, and we have a walkway, which, is it still there? Elaine, did you?
I need Jaws. I need Jaws.
Oh, that's
the fish. I need
Jaws.
Jaws. That was my contribution.
And I guess add whatever you like to the ocean.
Yeah, we had good fun. Yeah.
So, but it was great to partner. Just more resources to you. But we didn't have enough time.
Thank you, both of us. So not having enough time and not having what you want and experiencing that. We did this training with teachers frequently. That sense of I need
it's so deep. You need that learning to create your vision. We think about the rules that we tend to set up for young children in classrooms. That's closed. That one can't move over here. Those two things can't integrate with each other. So it's helpful to immerse yourself in what it's like to be a child and like, no, this is not a casual thing. Like you deeply needed those other materials, right? And then the length of time, given how much time we have today, it's a little bit shorter, but you can see how it takes a bit of time to just kind of find your flow, which is another part of developmentally appropriate practice, that these open-ended playtimes need to be a significantly long amount of time. So you can work through, and then your ideas start to blossom and grow. Thank you. Okay. Yeah, next.
That was Dana and I, and so for my individual, honestly, I had the orange spark. When I opened it, I got very overwhelmed. I'm very like task oriented and I need the schedule and I need to kind of know what my function is. And so when you said you had 10 minutes to play and create, I saw it as a mess. I was like, how am I gonna create in 10 minutes? So immediately went to sorting. And then when we paired up, Dana and I spent our time really engaging in conversation while we were building. So that social aspect of being in our heads for that 10 minutes and trying to focus on building. When we got to partner up with a friend, it was more about talking stories and engaging and connecting that way. And I noticed we were both very respectful when we went for each other's play items. It was, you can play with my pipe fingers. Okay, I like pipe fingers. You can have it. You think that 3 and 4-year-old play in India, that's really.
And very quickly they become mine, right? My pipe cleaners, yep. Thank you. Did we get you first?
So to whoever had the brown one, I swapped it out in the morning when I first came because I liked his color. Thank you. And so I wanted more of the color, so I spread it out like all over the place. And every time I'm like, I love this color. But I like to organize too on my side. And so, but it didn't seem frustrating or anything. Like it was play to me. Organizing, it was fun. It was play, organizing quantity and all this other kind of stuff, more or less. It was fun. And then when I partnered, so she did express that she was trying to leave her zippers. But it didn't really come out the way originally that she had wanted to. So when we partnered together again, then we started to like figure out which were the longer zippers, which were the short ones. And then we kind of finished her weaving project. And then we heard that there were more things over here. So I came first and somebody had a hula, like I had taken a couple and I came back and they're gone. I'm like, okay, but let's still make trees anyway. So we made trees and then she incorporated parts of my things into hers. And I know she said she liked the wooden circles. So try to figure out how do we, share. And so I felt like, let's put it onto like her blue fabric because maybe that's sharing, because it's not her, so I don't know. But I don't know, do you want to add anything else?
I just wanted an observation. I think it's really cool that we're all saying this is what my kid would do, because it shows how much our kids inspire us and what we learn how to do too. So that's a really cool thing that I've noticed about road talk.
Thank you. All right, and then right here.
Okay, so me and Jen, we both had a lot of blocks. So when I opened mine, I had blocks and buttons, and I was like, what am I gonna do with these buttons? So I just started building like a little castle. I started decorating it with buttons, and then Jen had a really nice big tree building. So we had really nice buildings that were kind of far apart from each other. Then when we came together, we weren't sure if we wanted the buildings to come together, but Jen said she wanted a kinetic, like she wanted to do something kinetic with like these wheels. So we were like, what can we do? So we tried building a ramp and then made a pool of buttons for it all to go into. And we got really far with the first part of the ramp, but in the last minute, we were like, the drop wasn't as dramatic enough. So we created the second tier of it. How does it work?
We didn't test the second tier yet.
It's a lot of pressure. I'll do the lower one.
I enjoyed the process of like problem solving together with Kelly. It was fun. I think the other observation I had was in kind of in response to people's comments about sorting, is that I actually am usually a natural sorter, and it drives me absolutely bonkers that my son is not like, his Legos are just in a big, right? But, and so I have this urge to sort and compartmentalize his stuff, but when it came to me doing this, I wanted to take, when you see everybody's little scarves laid out nicely, I wanted to just dump, if it was not quiet time and if people disturbed me, I would dump the whole thing on the table, right? Like, and so I thought it was kind of interesting, like for me introspectively, that was an interesting observation that even though when I'm observing my son playing, I want to impose this like kind of organization on him, and yet when I was faced with a similar task for myself personally, I actually took more of his approach, so I can appreciate more, I think, the benefit of not having things organized is, yeah, the kind of creativity and organicness that comes with disorganization. So that was one of my points.
All right, and our last group. That was myself and Ian. I was excited when I opened my scarf because it was all colorful and sparkly, and that was just perfect. So of course I am a sorter, so I was like, "Ooh, we're gonna sort color," and then I started seeing, okay, there's 6 of each of these blocks of color. What can we do? And I started building a structure. I was like, "Oh, this is kind of like those cool Minecraft houses my daughter makes," and doing that. But it got really fun when I joined together with Ian. Because we realized we could start making like an Angry Birds type game. So we were launching various objects of power and finding different levers and different heights. And it was a lot of fun, kind of scientific experiment to see.
I think we got hit in the face with a ball a couple times.
It kind of started too because we were looking around and listening, and like everyone's working with their materials very kind of orderly, and like it wasn't super noisy. And I'm a former kindergarten teacher, and I know that when left to play, that's not how it's gonna go down.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, what can we do to liven things up?
There's always one, right? We're gonna open this space now for any general thoughts or observations as you're processing. Oh, did we miss one?
Alana.
Oh, sorry, Alana. Alana, were you able to gather some materials?
I did, but I don't know if this is one that I can do by myself in my office at my desk. But I appreciated kind of what everyone was sharing, and the perspectives that you guys brought in terms of like the materials that you were given and how you were able to create something, especially how that changed when you had a partner that you were working with. I feel like there was one thought that I kind of echoed where I had imagined myself as a child in my office, like what would I gravitate to? And my coworker will bring her children into our office sometimes, and I have a lot of these like stress balls, and so I grabbed a lot of those because those are the things that I was like gravitating towards, thinking like, oh, the children would probably do something with this and play with this in some way.
Thank you, Alana. All right, any thoughts that
Have come to mind as you're listening to your colleagues share about the nature of play.
I appreciated the question on the sheet around the science, because there was a lot of math and science, and we talked about sorting and themes and patterns, and that was coming up for me even with, so Diza and I both have as we were talking, realized we both have a science background, so we are just trained that way. And I was talking about how I was building this thing, this gathering place in the middle there. And she said, well, if the ball was actually smooth, it might not have, like, if it didn't have the texture to it to hold on, it might have tumbled, which would have been a good learning experience too. Or that she was building a tree and it was bending over, so there needed to be some problem solving to figure out where the heaviness was coming from. So that was great.
which we saw.
Yeah, we.
Thank you.
I like the inspiration. After hearing everybody talk about theirs, if we did it again, I would do things a little bit differently. and incorporate maybe some cool ideas that I heard as Brian was describing. So the sharing part as a whole group was very inspiring.
And that sharing is another thing that comes out for preschool teachers when we talk about the need to clean up, put away, and stop and move on to the next activity. And when we do that too frequently and interrupt that flow, we interrupt children's opportunities to be inspired by their peers. And it's really hard for us to know when a child is done with what they're doing. So they may have set this all up, playing somewhere else for a long time, but they know that that was back there, and then they may come back for it. And if you tidied it away or force them to clean it up, we are also interrupting that.
One thing I thought about was the fact that when I opened the bag, I got frustrated and I physically could feel it because I'm not 28. And I got this hot flash. But it was like coming on because I was like, what am I gonna do with all of this? Because I can't jump to creativity because I've never seen myself as the most creative person. I rely on other people for creativity. You tell me what to do and I'll do it. But
then she's gonna organize it.
you tell me what to do, I'll organize it and we'll do what you said. But I started to physically show signs. And then I started to think, wow, like I would never even think about that as a child playing who may have, like, I may not have an obsessive compulsive disorder. At least I don't think so. But what if a child does? And what if a child has something where like too much stimulation triggers and a feeling within them that physically creates signs and their behavior starts to change. For me, it was just perspiration. It was just a hot flash, but just thinking about that, that part of a child's engagement and how we present play and how we present it. I don't know. So I'm saying so much and I'm mumbling and jumbling my words, but I was just thinking about that, how it could impact a child.
How we present choice and allow children to have agency and make choices and what appeals to them. When we do this workshop, when we have like full 3 hours for this, we start off with the play materials open. It's not the surprise unwrapped package. So you are able to look and choose what appeals to you. But you don't always find, like, there are people who look around there and like, this is all, it's too much, it's too much. And those are really strong feelings. And so that, when I talked about the role of an early childhood teacher is to understand child development and know that this type of experience is great generally for children, but then knowing your own children. So like, okay, she's not gonna want all of these colors. I'm gonna set out an area and maybe nudge and point out like, hey, you might wanna start, like, this type of thing might appeal to you, or we might need to set up space protection of rules of, as children are learning, to move through preferred and non-preferred activities is what we call it in early childhood. So this started off as a non-preferred activity for you, right? And that brought up so many feelings. So that is what children also experience. And a big part of the power of a rich early learning experience is having that opportunity to work through, like, how do you manage those feelings when you're asked to do something that's a non-preferred? Because we don't just get to do our preferred activities all day long. And what we hear from kindergarten teachers, we'll talk in a minute a little bit about school readiness. What they want is children who can navigate through non-preferred activities. So having, open-ended, but also teachers helping them to negotiate those feelings. Really great.
Krista, Lane and I also talked about how as you move on in school, and you mentioned like by third grade, then it's even more structured. And even in kindergarten now, there's standards, you have to do this, you have to do that, you have to meet all of these requirements. Versus in pre-K or in early learning, it looks more playful. And I even remember, even though it looks playful, but they're still learning, right? Like the learning looks different. And I remember when my daughter, my oldest, who's about to be 11, because I have a K-12 background. And I drove her preschool teachers crazy because I was like, where's your lesson plan? What are we doing today? What's the guiding question? And they were like, we're gonna play in the mud. And I'm like, okay. But then I learned that there's so much that's so rich and that's so developmentally appropriate. And so in kindergarten, first and second, they had round tables, but there was this huge play area and, you know, for dramatic play and all of the things. And then in third grade, it was a stark difference. I was like, oh my God, there are no toys. And it was just desks. And so for me, like, I noticed it, and so I wonder how children experience it as well, when they go back to school in third grade, and they're like, this feels different.
Sound like kindergarten sometimes, it's kind of hardship. Yeah, I used to teach kindergarten and then I was always the one who's like, I'm gonna protect pre-K, like we can't, you know, because kindergarten shifted while I was there to become less play-based. And like I said, what we know about children over hundreds of years of human development has not changed. So our ideas about what children should learn at different ages has changed, and we're drifting away from what we know is best for children and child development. All right, I promised you that I would invite you to help clean up. So what we're going to do next is we have, I'll invite you to go back to your table and you have a second reflection. While you are responding to that reflection question, we're gonna come around and give you each 2 Ziploc baggies, and in the baggie is one material. And you get to go on a treasure hunt and find that material and put it in your baggie, and then I'll have 2 suitcases in the back. And you can just drop your baggies in there, and then we'll move into break time. All right, so go ahead and please return. I love the refrain.
I know, right?
I know. I would let you help me. I'm gonna invite you. Help me. Yeah.
Teacher played the piano.
This is the part that I was not good at.
Yeah.
As soon as the game was over, it's nice, it's like, okay, we're gonna throw it. Yeah, and I throw the bottle down there. It's like, come on.
Yeah, well, but it means.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, no. Yeah, you get everything. Yeah.
We had a rock canopy. Oh, okay, okay, fine.
That's fine for now. It's funny enough time. Oh, yeah. Oh, no. Yeah, no worries. No worries. I think so. It's really great.
Yeah.
Oh, that's how we put time.
That'll be a different one, but here's this. And then
You're gonna go to ten.
Oh, okay.
And be.
Yeah, I got sick of the oh, yeah,
We're just gonna wonder, where'd you get to? Like right here before that.
Jane, somebody next Jane?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, maybe they have that. You're not fine. Thank you for ordering that.
Oh, yeah.
Are these? Yes. And then I'll put these, I'll put these in here. And then here's a whole shebang.
All your.
Oh. Yes. Let me point that out. I already have this.
You're trying to play for they've been in the news and laid the top of my head. I'm like, that literally looked like. I would never see it. It was this that day from, I mean.
Oh, that's one. Perfect. Good one. The second one.
I know. Yeah, did it for me. Yeah. With the wood, like, that's not your word. When I was like.
Outside and there's been a little bit more of a business experience.
Right?
That's what Pyro child in me.
Exactly.
I don't know. When I saw your guys' thing, I thought of that, so I know.
Oh, yeah, yeah. No, I was, with the. Those footballs, I guess, I mean, a few things, one, the other thing, part of the document.
Yeah.
How doctors use all these, have different colorful footballs on some part of the body. And then when we were building out the structure, it reminded me of that scene from Wano where they sometimes that shift that had all the little roundy creatures that. Oh, yeah.
Who has the
That's what it reminded me of. Yes.
Who has a bottle cap bag?
Oh, I have one, little one.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And here's that.
I was like. Oh, God. It's Cheyenne. So when I met him, it's. It's need to be there. I know.
Always remember.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So like even last night, we were like. In a good. Yeah, that right.
I got also from everyone's friends in Wyoming and then from the south. You've never been down south. You know, I need to go. Right, let's get it together. Yeah.
Do you need a bite?
At the intermediate high. Well, that, I mean, and also. You don't have like. Who's the?
Just the map, there is she is.
Yeah, no, we delivered.
I went to the thing this summer about the internship that they did.
And you want to put last one or? Give them a.
And she was on
They're on right, so that should be okay. Why don't you change the slide? Or here, what time do we want to do something?
11.
Good spot.
Everybody has.
We're gonna go ahead and take a 10-minute break and we'll be back at 11 o'clock. So please grab some more snacks, bio breaks, and we'll see you at 11.
And not need to renegotiate this.
And we just want to wrap up that last activity before we move on to the next piece of our agenda. And you had a chance to reflect on your two prompts were kind of thinking about different types of foundational learning, right? So the second time around, your prompt was, now that you're playing with friends, what kinds of negotiation, conflict resolution, communication skills came out of that play? And really thinking about those of you who notice patterning and physics and all of those great things, they come up naturally in children's play. Piaget refers to children as little scientists in his research. And we have this tendency to feel like we need to go in and say, like, we're going to teach patterning today. So I'm going to have you do red bear, blue bear, red bear, blue bear. But if you give children opportunity to play with a wide variety of materials, they are naturally gravitating toward those types of things. So what we're looking for in early learning is less of rote memorization of what we call surface level skills. What color is this? Can you count to 10? What shape, what letter? Less educational apps and tablets, as I shared briefly. Our human brains are not wired to take in information and have it stick. Bev Voss, who's a great leader in early childhood education, said if it hasn't been in the hand, it can't be in the heart or in the mind. Like, children need to have hands-on experiences. We don't need weekly themes. Those are an easy way for teachers to plan and organize. Parents like it. It's not really leading to deep learning for children. We definitely don't want sedentary and silent, as we heard from our kindergarten teacher in the back. That's not what early childhood learning looks like. And coloring and worksheets and crafts. If you see a whole wall of every child did the exact same thing, that was the adults having satisfaction from that activity. And the kids were like, okay, whatever, we'll go, you know. So more of learning everyday symbols in authentic context. So our group over here was talking about the physics that you experience playing with the materials, how heavy, how light, what happens when I roll this ball that's made of fluff versus this one that's made of wood, and why is it different? We want sensory rich, hands-on play. We want moving, touching, and talking and process driven experiences. Ready? Yeah.
Thank you. All right, well, I hope we all had a great time playing. I know that I definitely did. And so now we're gonna shift to the part of our day or part of our morning where we're going to share some updates about the state plan with you. And so after this portion of the morning, we'll then have lunch and then we'll engage in discussions and conversations around how the ELB can support the state plan. But first we want to ground you with some information about it and the process that we've been going through. As I mentioned early, many of you have been integrally a part of this and we appreciate your participation. So we are revising the state plan. It is building upon the initial plan from 2019. And we have kept the same 5 building blocks from the first plan. And we double checked this. You'll see as I go through multiple slides that this process has been very iterative. And so it goes, it'll touch base with different parties, the community, feedback, revising. So this was double checked with with over 100 providers and families at our May community engagement event. And for this new plan, something that came out of that event organically was adding a 6th building block, early childhood systems. And we see that 6th building block as supporting the other 5 and ensuring that systems are aligned, that work can be sustained and monitored. So here are the key players in the state plan revision process. So we also liken the state plan with a navigation metaphor. So EOEL is the convener. EOEL brought together, as I mentioned, members from the legislature, parents, providers, state organizations, nonprofits, bringing everybody together in one place so that we could have comprehensive understanding of the work that's taking place across the early childhood ecosystem. Then we have the steering committee, who holds the big picture. The steering committee, some of the members are here today, is made up of state leaders, agency leaders, and organizational leaders. And at times, some of them have designated a designee to sit in his or her place. And then we have the building block committees. So they provide the deeper expertise and focus. These are the people on the ground doing the work. They know what's happening. They know what work is taking place. And we felt like it was important for them to be integral in defining what the goals were, the action priorities, the key progress indicators. And then finally, we have the community. The plan is to serve Keiki and Ohana. So throughout the process, there are opportunities where we're reaching out and sharing updates and gathering information to make sure that this is not a plan that people created in a room, in an office somewhere, that then sits on the shelf and is not used. The vision is for it to be, of the people, for the people, by the people. And so you'll see as I go through the multiple places where the community has been engaged. And some more of that is going to be happening this week when EOEL and the West Ed team will be visiting different islands to share the plan information and gather input, because we know that work is happening, great work is happening in Hawaii, and it might look different in different communities. And we want to make sure the plan captures the needs and the needs of different communities across the state. So here is our state plan revision process as a whole. So you can see on the left side, the iterative process. So each circle was like a different iteration with a different group. So we started with a small group kicking off in March. And then that was given to the steering committee. And then that was given to the community at the community engagement forum. And so from that process, we ended up with our 6 building blocks. Each building block has 2 goals. And each goal, as you'll see momentarily, has 2 to 3 action priorities. And then we looked at our process. Again, we wanted the people doing the work to be the decision makers on what goes into the plan. And this came from feedback from the original plan where some people were written down in terms of, oh, so-and-so is doing this. We'll add it to the plan. But that person may or may not have been asked if they wanted it to be included, or they might not have been engaged in order to have it included. And so we wanted to make sure that people doing the work were making the decisions of what the goals were, what the action priorities were, and how that work would be monitored and measured. So every month, the building block committees meet, and you can see that there are 5 represented in the middle. And then after they do their work, we share it with the steering committee, who has like the 30,000-foot view from a state agency level to provide feedback. What might be missing? What might be, where might there be opportunities for collaboration across the building blocks? And then it's iterative, back and forth. Next slide, please. I know this is a lot of information. I'm just gonna quickly provide this layer for you, and then you'll actually get a copy of it in your hands. So these are pictures from the community engagement forum that we had in May. And again, we started by asking folks, imagine that it's 2040 and you're in the elevator at a conference with somebody, and they say, they look at your badge. You're like, oh, you're from Hawaii? We have heard amazing things about your early learning system. Like, tell me about it. How did you do it? What's going on? How does it work? And so we asked people to imagine that and to think about what would need to be true for Keiki and Ohana to be thriving by 2040. Of course, we want that to happen before that, but just to have some long range vision. And so they were able to chart and imagine ideas that really help to further refine the goals that would fall underneath each building block. Next slide, please. As I mentioned, it's been a very iterative and inclusive process. So we were very excited to be joined by some of the elected officials from the state, including the Senate President. They came to both learn and to participate. And so they were able to hear directly from providers and families, and they are also able to share their perspectives. Of our steering committee members. And then you can see again that it's a list of state agency leadership or their designees. We've been engaging with them every month to share updates on the building blocks and to gather their feedback. We wanted to make sure that as many people and organizations and perspectives were included as possible. Here are the organizations who made up the building block committees. And you can see that there's a range of organizations, nonprofits, agencies that have really been working hard since June to fine tune the goals and the action priorities that will guide the early childhood system over the next 5 years. We know that there is a lot of great work that's happening across the state. And the state plan goal is to put arms around that work and identify what's happening so that it can foster collaboration, identify areas where we might need more focus. And just so that overall, the story of the great work that's happening can be told. So here's a snapshot, you have it in front of you, of the plan as it stands now. You can see the 6 building blocks. And as I mentioned, each building block has 2 goals. And then each goal has 2 to 3 action priorities. Building block 5 is the only building block that has 1 goal because it was about systems. And then throughout the process, we realized that we needed a separate building block for systems. And so again, being an iterative and organic process, one of the goals from building block 5 was considered for building block 6, and then it was revised. And so building block 5 is the only one with 1 goal. And building block 6, early childhood systems. So while 1 through 5 have the participants who are doing the work across the islands on the respective building blocks, building block 6 is owned by the steering committee. So when we're thinking about what are the systems at play for the work to happen, for the collaboration to happen, for the monitoring and support to happen in terms of in an efficient way, it made sense for that building block to be housed with the steering. Okay. A lot of information. That was many months. Let me see, 6 months worth of work, condensed into 5 minutes, just to give you a quick overview. I'm gonna pause momentarily to answer any questions before we give you a moment to review.
Is the steering committee designed to be a long-term structure
Good question.
after the completion of the plan?
That decision has not been made. It's not designed to be that way. And so there are still discussions around who will play that role or what entity will play that role once the plan has been finished.
The question behind that is, if you have a bucket owned by a committee that has goals and action priorities, what do you do after that transition of the radar?
And that's definitely on our radar and on the agenda. And there's been some initial conversation about it. Go ahead, Krista.
And so this plan as a strategic plan is a little bit different than what you would encounter if you were making a strategic plan for one agency, where you could say, we are completely responsible for setting all of these outcomes. These are our metrics that we're measuring toward. This plan is meant to encompass the entirety of the mixed delivery system. So right now, the committees exist only for the purpose of getting the plan written down and in action. And then one of the things that we're offering to you as the early learning board today is, how are you going to help support keeping the plan alive? So these goals are reflective of a common direction. So we are all navigating together in a common direction. These are the priorities that all of the community across all of the islands have come together to elevate. The action priorities reflect work that is happening already in Hawaii, and then there will be a couple action priorities that show here is an opportunity for next steps. And then the next piece, the last page there, is the piece of the work that we're currently engaged in. So the last step of the committee members before they disband is to help us flesh out what the key progress indicators will be for all of these action priorities. And by key progress indicators, we are wanting to paint that picture of what's happening in Hawaii across all the islands. So we are asking for what are key activities that are happening right now that are advancing this work that need to be elevated and recognized. And we'll list what the activity is and who the contributors are. So we listed 3 as an example here. And then once the plan is in place, annually, we are setting up for the agencies to share data with the EOEL team. So Yuko and her team are working on, we'll be working on setting up data agreements. They're not asking for any data that they're not already collecting. So part of the behind the scenes work is what data do you collect? How do you describe it? When does it come to you? And then when will you share it with us? So that annually they can gather all of that data and show some quantifiable progress toward those goals. So the hope is that this plan helps you paint a picture of what's going on across all the multiple investments, those that may be state agency on down, and those that are operated maybe grassroots on up, all working together to move toward this collective vision.
Can I try and piggyback? I had sort of a similar question to what Stephanie was asking. But maybe even more macro, right? Like when the process ends with the approval by the governor, not an approval by this body.
Correct.
Is that correct? So that, I mean, but then this body might be the convener that tries to hold ourselves collectively accountable for progress. Even though there's risk there, because it's all, because the risk is, Yuko, what's happening with goal 3, you know what I mean? Like, even if she doesn't have direct control over it. But I'm just trying to like envision a world in which it drives some of the collective work, but not in a way that we're, like, in a way that we are clear that it's not just the Executive Office of Early Learning who's responsible for implementation.
Yes,
Exactly.
yes.
So then, okay, that's fine, I get it, but then my question would be, why wouldn't we approve it or recommend approval?
Why wouldn't we?
Yeah, why, like, I'm not saying like it becomes then our responsibility, but like, we are the appointees of, I'm not, but you guys are the appointees of the governor of the state. Doesn't the governor of the state want to hear EOEL endorses?
Or the
Like-
early learning board endorses.
Sorry, that's what I
Yeah.
meant. Yeah. The early learning board endorses, then that, like, cause if, you know, he's not paying that much attention, maybe.
Right, I mean, in the
Yeah.
original plan, it was the chair of ELB and EOEL that signed off, so we collectively submitted it to the governor, so I'm imagining that's what would happen this
I think
time.
so the prior early learning board did support the prior
Yeah.
plan along with the governor.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, I mean, maybe that's a minor thing, but to me, it's not. To me, it has to be like that the body says, yeah,
Yeah,
we like it.
yes, and that's why I wanted
Yeah,
to
yeah.
have us
Yeah.
to have a good understanding of
Yeah.
what's happening and that feedback so that we can continue
Yeah.
and make sure, so. Asking for your manao on how, yes, what will the early learning board do? What is our role? Now we have county representatives. You know, we have not really defined those roles real clearly. It's still to be defined or maybe to be kept flexible. So those are all questions. I think it's really good to bring up these questions so that we can continue to move forward, because we do, I really feel, okay, I retired in 2019. Lord, what are you doing? I don't know. So Bob Peters did this for how many years? Yeah, once he retired. But anyway, really, I think we're at a crucial point where we can direct state policy. So what I would like to do this year is really work on the mixed delivery system policy, so that it gives a clear picture to whoever wants to see, this is a mixed delivery system, because I'm realizing that some people's perception is, oh, it's only the EOEL pre-K classrooms, you know, or it's, you know, oh, get Head Start, what is that? You know, so lots of different questions. And if we work on this mixed delivery system policy, so here's what I'm thinking right now. I'm working on a draft that would then, I would be asking the board, okay, what's the best way for us to refine this? Who needs to be in the conversation? Is it people in these building blocks? Is it, you know, how do we do this so that everybody understands and legislators can look at it and go, "Oh, okay, that's where we're heading. We don't want to cut the federal funding streams. We don't want to supplant one funding stream because this other we want to make them complement each other. So just that funding stream picture is a big one that we can help make people understand, right? Because we're not, a lot of times we're used to the, oh, it's only state, only federal, but we have these are multiple funding streams, and then also helping EOEL. I think our role is to support EOEL in how they support collaboration and communication among all these entities. So is that going to take us requesting more budget for EOEL for this communication and collaboration? Was it, so really, I would like you guys to think about, because I have plenty questions. That's why I'm asking and hoping for collective wisdom on how do we see EOEL, how will they be able to do this work of tracking without having authority, but really building those partnerships and collaboration. And that's why I asked Wasid to really, it is about relationships, right? And early childhood is based on relationships. And good policymaking is based on relationships. You know somebody, you can talk to them, you can, so we really, I really want to be clear that we need those relationships, and how can we help EOEL as a board do its work. It's gonna be hard. It's gonna be a lot of work to pull even just the data agreements. That is like huge. Yeah. So, as we get a better idea of what the work is, then how can we as a board help support EOEL in its work? Does that make sense? Does that kind of make sense?
I'll add on a bit that, Elaine, thank you, is the core of the next segment of today. Like helping facilitate a conversation where you all think about what does it look like for you as the board to support the plan, to support EOEL. And so we will be digging into that. The other piece that I'll add is, since this process has been very iterative, there's been intentionality around who's participated thus far. There was a big call for participation, but many of you who are on the board have been involved in the plan from the beginning. And part of the thinking was so that we didn't get 6 months down the line and then everyone's like, what is this? And we've had no input, or we've never heard of it, right? So there have been these different connection points. But again, because it's a very organic process, we're not coming in with all of the answers. We're coming in to provide space for all of you to have conversations and then define your goals moving forward.
Can we put the timeline slide up again?
Yeah. Sure.
Thank you. So the intention is for the governor to approve the plan in December.
We submit it in December.
Submit it in December. And then he'll just have a press release.
I think both you and I are new to this, because, we were not in these positions when the previous plan was submitted,
Right.
so.
And it's not like something he's gonna sign into being. Right, it's just like, it's not like he's signing a law to.
Right.
It's just a thing he gets, says he likes. And this timeline that you see was driven largely by the preschool development grant that Hawaii received. So there is, of course, funding with timelines attached to make this work possible, and this grant ends in December.
Yes.
How is the process for his approval? Okay, is it possible to fold accountability into, not accountability, but like direction for EOEL to have, even though we don't have line authority over a lot of the work, but the authority to collect the data? Like
Yeah.
EOEL is tasked as like the reporting body against the data on the
I believe
plan to help
there's a way.
streamline the
Yeah.
data sharing.
I believe there's a way to do that.
Yeah.
And, right, but there was a bill passed, was a bill, yeah, you go, that was, pulling together the entities, the state departments to work on the data agreements.
Yeah.
So, that work is gonna support the data gathering and, you know, it'll take a little time. I don't, see, it'll take time for that process to work.
So is that what the EOL would do, is kind of monitor progress indicators within the state plan to some extent? Is that which?
Yeah, I think that would be, yes.
And the way that we have it outlined at this point from one of the previous slides. So we've asked the building block committees to describe the work that they're currently doing, so that that can be reflected in the plan. And then EOEL will gather information. But the data that is shared annually will be shared in aggregate. So we didn't want it to be, you know, this organization said they're doing X, Y, or Z, and now we're gonna make sure that that happens. This plan is designed in a way where we'll be able to see collectively what's happening. We'll be able to tell a story. Down the line, you know, like this is an important first step because it brings all of the efforts together, right, under one place. And possibly for your next state plan, you'll have this baseline data, and then you might be able to kick that accountability piece up a notch if that's the direction you want to go in. But before doing that, it's important to make sure that the pieces are in place where the system is working together. And so there will be data that's shared and it'll be collected.
Is there a publicly available list of the steering committee? Whether it be online, just to demonstrate who's participating, who's overseeing, I mean, is that available online? Or do we have it on EOEL? Tara?
Well, we haven't, you had the steering committee members on one of.
I saw it there, I saw all the logos. Do we have a list of them?
Yeah, you have the list, right, on this?
We have it and we've been sharing it, but I think your question is it like publicly available right
Yeah.
now? I don't think that that's
Would
been
that be,
posted, but
does everybody think that that would be okay to share? I mean, cause this is a COCO thing, right? And that's, I believe, is important to share. It's a COCO thing.
Yeah, and I think
for many
communication,
reasons.
yeah, is that big, that's a big overriding piece,
Yeah.
communication. How do we communicate? Because, you know, Kamehameha Schools is not a state entity. How is Kamehameha going to be, you know, engaged in the data sharing, FCIL programs? You know, there's so many different components that are not necessarily tied directly to a state entity. So that's where, I think UEL has by statute, the responsibility to kind of have that overview, be clear on what they have authority over and what is collaboration. So it really entails, and it's that process of building that trust in EOEL that they are, and that, oh yeah, they're not only about the public pre-K programs, they're about the whole early learning system. So we're getting there. You know, by necessity, the focus has been on opening the EOEL classrooms, and we are going to be moving towards, hey, we gotta, couple and let's do this together and communicate. You know, all the HAIS schools, there are all those programs, so we have so many entities, so that's why all these entities are on the board. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry about that. I mean, the statute is the statute's interesting because it's like, it's different than like the Department of Taxation, right? Like, it's not like a clean thing that,
Right,
that
right.
the
It's-
early
it's
learning
real
board and the
different,
EOL, right? That seems to me aligned with this plan, which is also kind of broad and. So like that, to me, the idea of the ELB being the one who shepherds it. Even without the authority is, that fits to me. I'll say in advance. It's gonna mean sometimes that you go get blamed for stuff that's not moving. Even if that's not within our authority, but the other thing you can do is if you start collecting data, you can find the pukas and then go, okay, well, now we need legislative support for X, Y, Z. So like, I kind of like the idea, but I worry, my worry is you can sort of hear and tell is like, I don't want it to be like, okay, the governor approved it. But then we don't really think of it as ours, nobody really thinks of it as theirs.
Right, yeah, that's what we're trying to avoid.
And then it kind of dissolved in this.
Yeah,
That's what I worry about, that's why, so I
Yeah,
apologize for
yes,
taking
thank
too much
you.
of your space, but that's why.
that was a major thing that is trying to be addressed by this plan. The focus group came back. That was a big finding that people were like.
Juliana.
Yeah.
And then,
Yeah.
yeah, like,
Yeah, so that's why it's been structured so that there's clearer.
Alana's got a real.
Articulation of, what's happening and,
Alana has her yellow hand up.
oh, Alana.
Hi, everyone. I just a comment on there, because I understand what Steve is sharing, and also I think maybe what Cowie was kind of leaning towards, because the plan seems like it's guided by a steering committee, and so making it known that the steering committee is guiding the development of the plan, but as the ELB, are we fostering the plan as we continue to support EOEL in achieving the goals that are listed there, or who? I guess that I could just pose the question of who holds accountability. Do we hold the steering committee accountable, or I guess what does that look like as the early learning board?
Right now, early learning board, I mean, for me as chair, I'm part of the steering committee. I'm not sharing the steering committee. And we haven't, Stephanie's question was very, we need to think about that. What happens after December? How should that steering committee continue? Should that somehow become a function of the board? Should it be a subcommittee of the board? We have leeway to create something that works for our state. So let's keep thinking about it.
I think that's kind of where I'm going next is like getting the plan approved isn't the milestone. It's kind of, there has to be a series of activities that happen with organizations locked arms publicly after this. So not just like a public front, but then also like what are the tools and messages within each of the stacks of organizations? So that staff can work together and support ownership of the plans, like change management strategies after December or whenever the governor approves it. My worry with the steering committee continuing is, does that become like a parallel early learning board? How do they work together? But like, is there a way we think about board structure and forward? But I think, is there a group that's paying attention to or starting to think about what is that like post-approval change strategy, change management strategy? Is that the steering committee? Is that another group? Is that this group? Like,
Should that be us?
yeah, and then I think too, like, transparency is always better from my opinion, so I'm surprised that this stuff isn't all posted. I think it would behoove us to have a subpage on our website with everything. I agree. And to even get like some of these materials ahead of time. I'm not sure if we're supposed to use, I'm cognizant of the agenda. I think we're jumping past lunch, but were we supposed to be using this time too to internalize what's here? Because
No, that's fine.
I need time.
This feels, of course,
Yeah.
this feels very organic. We're excited that these are the questions that are coming up for you. And though it was planned for after lunch, again, we're flexible, and so having parts of it now makes sense. Lunch is on its way, and so our pivot is that we were gonna give you a bit of time to review, because again, it's a lot of information. and just give you a moment to like process it and the like. Lunch will likely, we'll see when it arrives. And you'll be able to continue to process and have a working lunch, and then we'll come back and we'll go through some of these questions. What will the ELB's role be? What happens when the plan is finished? What does that look like? Structure, governance, and the like. Are there other questions I can answer before we give you some time to go through it?
I just want to make clear, right now the committees exist, including the steering committee, solely for the purpose of preparing the plan, and their work concludes in December. So that has been our ongoing question that we wanted to bring to you as the board today about, their work was to put the plan together. And then your work is to have that vision for how it gets used post December and what structures need to be in place.
Yeah.
Lane is going to be emailing out to the board, and Alana, you'll be getting this of the copy of the handout here. So Alana, your copy will be coming soon, apologies. Sorry.
Yeah, no worries. Okay, well, let's go ahead and take 10 minutes to go through the plan. These are the building blocks organized by goal and action priorities. So this document does not have the KPIs on them yet because the building block committees are still refining those.
And please think about, we can have, right now, we only have 2 subcommittees on the board. We have finance and governance. And I'm waiting for I'm eager to see what the thoughts are, because do we need other permanent subcommittees? Do we need ad hoc subcommittees that have a 2-year time span and a definite outcome? So think about those structures for the board. Whether either, subcommittee, ad hoc committee, subcommittee.
What is the time span of this plan?
5 years.
Thank you.
Is it 5 years starting 2026?
Yeah,
Whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The time span.
Time span.
Is it 2026 calendar year or is it 26-27 school year?
I'm guessing it's calendar year, but I don't know.
That hasn't been clearly defined, and so that could be something that it feels important to the board one way or the other.
And think about, okay, so the initial plan and this plan were both funded by the PDG Birth to 5 grant. And that is no longer gonna happen. So we also have to think about beyond the 5 years. Do we, how do we get another plan going? How does the board support that work and continuing on?
So how often will we be reviewing the plan?
Good question.
And preparing for the next one? How often does that take place? And what do we need to do
Yeah, to be
internally?
determined, yeah.
What do we
have
do?
to start
I mean, we gotta start thinking about
Yeah.
this because we gotta start thinking about
Yes.
funding and we gotta start
Right.
thinking about lobbying and all of these things. We should probably put a timeline to. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, we want to start developing the new plan this year, though, current plan is ending. So in 4 years, we want to start developing, so ask for that.
I would think like year 3, because you wanna pull all the data and then give us time to plan for the end of the year.
But we might not be able to report data till year 2.
Yeah. And then then we can see what advances were made and what areas need a little more attention for the upcoming plan. I'm just looking at this from a capacity point.
Yeah.
I think it's a lot.
It
We
is.
meet once a month for 4 hours.
Yeah.
So like
Yeah.
the subcommittees, the
Yeah.
ad hoc committees,
Yeah.
most definitely, but what is, like, how much can we move? Working with external, the private sector as well, like what is their span of capacity, and does you'll have that capacity as well?
Well, I think too, like, we should look at, once the data points are set, like at what frequency are those data points refreshed? And then set, like, do we review it quarterly, do we review it twice a year, once a year? At least once, like.
Was this in the previous state plan, the previous 5 years, were there incremental updates or from anybody that was trying to do what we're doing right now and talk it out and make it
No.
happen? Not necessarily.
I
So this is new.
So this is a new,
Yeah.
and I also think it's kind of trying to improve the
Yeah.
last 5 years
Right.
process,
Right, right.
where it was like vetted, there it was.
Yeah.
Right.
But, and then we started to work parallel, and it's
Yeah.
there, yes, we're moving towards universal pre-K, but we weren't hitting like the block areas.
It seems like in our November meeting, we might wanna hold space to give like our board kind of stamp on the plan, but also discuss and as much as we can finalize our reporting timeline or process, like what our accountability process will be. To me, I think if we can present that with the release of the plan, then it gives it more weight.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we thought it through.
But then we need to know the data points before sometime in October to have for somebody to create a recommended reporting frequency.
I have another comment. I still haven't gotten the email, but just listening and wondering, is there, as the plan gets approved at the end of the year and we get into the next legislative session, are there going to be any policy recommendations that the ELB puts forward to support any of the areas within the plan? I don't know what that might look like, but is that another thing to consider?
These are all the questions, and you can see the charts we have on the wall here that we wanted to do in the next step. So I think, and we're waiting at lunches on the way. We wanted you to eat first before you did, like, we spent a lot of energy this morning already. I do want to ask you to just pause, hang on to those questions. Pause and read through what's in the plan. And then we're gonna move into a little bit of a structured conversation to start surfacing some of these ideas that you have and questions. And Alana, your email should be coming shortly. Yeah, the email coming out momentarily.
Or let's say it's. Yeah, it's on this side, yeah, yes.
And now
It's on just.
That's what we need to say.
This is the this is the true, so. So it's. You'll be good to see. Yeah. Yes. Questions. That's nice. Yeah. That's nice. When do you think we have to get the number to revenues? We would have to, yes, support. And then I said, like, this is like the last time. Yeah, something that. Lives, yes, that you're in this tracking pad. There's one. Buckets. You're just like, all this, I am just. It's like the data. Preschool seats, like simple one. Such a way. Charting. Yeah, I think that. Yeah, and it's this, I can decide as it should go, so yeah, we just have to, which I see the. What's the, on the other side. Yeah, that's. That's all. Right here. You have to turn this around, it was one in the beginning. Scope. Thanks. This document should be. It's. Anything. Oh, okay, yeah, I don't know that. Who's your? Who are you? Oh, you go to one research. Okay, all right, okay, so right. HR too. HR, yeah, and it's HR. Yes, yeah. This is the 3 million word gap. Very. Essentials. Write it down as a shape between essentials. Great, well, I think that's what's on the character. The question was asked. And that's all the town, right? I see that, you know, so this complete of that. Contributes to. So it's just. So what's this? Yeah, versus. Yeah, that's something like it's, yeah, and this. No, there's not, nothing on it. Yeah.
So we just got an update that lunch will be here around 12:30. So we're gonna keep on walking. If you want to grab a snack to power through while we're waiting for lunch, please, you know, meet your needs as you need to. So we wanted to pause here as you've had a chance to look at what has emerged from the building block committees as far as goals and action priorities. What excites you? What jumps out?
I think number 3, specifically the increase of culturally, linguistically, and developmentally appropriate early care, specifically calling out Hawaiian language, culture, and values. Very exciting. I have so many clarifying questions regarding that particular action priority, so I will try to figure out whose role in curriculum development as well as the assessment piece for that particular section, because that is a huge section with 3 major action priorities.
So, and that happens to be one of the committees that I facilitate. They have been fantastic conversations. A lot of people really digging deep into what's best for children and families in Hawaii. And the push and pull around those conversations, and this is true for all of the building blocks. It's that tension of, this is not a prescriptive plan. This is not anyone coming out and saying it went into the plan and now everyone has to do it or being held accountable. These are our collective goals. What's in place? What structures do we have in place to get the momentum or keep the momentum? And then how will you all use that data to identify opportunities or needs for further investment? So when we get to the KPIs for that goal, what they're pulling together is who's doing this work right now that can be elevated as an example of good practice to advance these goals. And it looks different for different programs. I mean, Ephraim's on that committee. So we talk about what Head Start has in place, what EOEL has in place. We've got folks who operate private centers. They're talking about the charter schools. So it's not, we're trying to hold space because we didn't feel, in the sense from the community and from the needs assessment, is that there was neither capacity nor desire to have a top-down directed system of like, we've identified this is the way it should be and everyone will fall in line. So we're starting with where are we all trying to head together, and then who's doing that work and how can we elevate that? And it could be from, this is the type of staff development or the materials that we're producing, like all of our preschool classrooms have this in place for these programs. Time to extend my priority. So collecting all of that data, right, and then that'll help us identify where gaps exist.
And I think to that point, just really quick, like being on building block 3, it's really like trying to find out who is that who are the epistemic communities, the knowledge bases from which we can draw moving them forward. So this this is a priority, but I think to our questions on building out monitoring, and it's more of an informing system than a prescriptive system. So how do we educate the community and say, these are ways that you can promote this
Yeah.
within the framework that you see fits best within your program?
As well as these are the benefits
Yes.
for doing this.
Right.
Yes.
Because some may say, I'm not Native Hawaiian,
Right.
that's not important to my
Yeah.
child. But if you're raising your child in Hawaii, it very much can be very critical to their success wherever they move in the world, right? So ensuring that everyone understands, including the building block committee, the benefits to these items that are listed here. Why is it important, even for non-Hawaiian children being raised in Hawaii's waters, in Hawaii's dirt, in Hawaii's sands, eating Hawaii's plants, climbing Hawaii's trees and looking at Hawaii's birds? Why is it important? Right? And they can call on that as their values when they're wherever they move in the world, that these are their values. This is what they connect to, right? And just, sorry, I can go all day on that. But I'll stop. But just my point was just ensuring that people are aware of the benefit.
Yes.
To that.
And that was a couple meetings of really engaged and, everyone didn't have come in with the same perspective, but really worked through and landed on, we are talking about all children. We are not talking about, Banana Leo sites only. Right? We are talking about all children who grow up and attend public or private early childhood programs in Hawaii, or you'll see, the building blocks go across family services, medical support too. So there was a call from the needs assessment that carried through the directions that we gave to all of the building block committees around incorporating Hawaiian language, culture, and values throughout the updated state plan.
Right. And that's the thing, is it's not just a building block, it's actually should be within all blocks.
Yeah.
It should be.
I hope you see that across.
Yeah.
I hope you see that across.
Yeah.
I have a technical question. The action priorities, do those generally in some way correlate or convert to KPI? Like I could sort of, because I could like flip this into, then we're gonna measure, because it's increased the number of.
Right,
Yeah,
I was writing that down too.
Like
So that is-
action focused.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could sort of see that happening, if that's the logic.
Can you skip back to the KPI? Like, so the KPIs are showing us, what are the progress indicators that are advancing these action priorities.
Okay, so it's yes then.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. And one of the things, if we
That's
just
kind of
did-
a lot, by the way.
Yeah.
That's my feedback on that, that's a joke.
Yeah.
The technical, the language.
No,
Just
it's a
action.
large
Just
number
for-
of KPIs
Oh.
per thing, cause then you're like,
Yes.
5 goals times 6
Yeah.
KPI, like, all of a sudden we got lots.
Yeah.
That's all.
I'm hearing like a couple of different ways this plan might be used, and I'm wondering if we can maybe maybe I'm the only one who's confused, but so I'm hearing it's a tool to help us know what's happening in an organized way, because it's organized under goals and buckets and all the things. I'm hearing it's a tool because we know what's happening then to sort of celebrate what's happening and find pukas or opportunities for somebody somewhere somehow to know there's a puka to do something. But then I'm also hearing, and this is similar, but like a little bit of a difference in terms of how you operate with it, like that it's a unifying doc that could guide like how the ELB makes policy, or depending on how it's rolled out, like is this the unifying doc that the governor and the ledge use to like do their policy and funding decision-making around early childhood. So, and those are really different uses. I mean, even the idea of reporting progress against this doesn't necessarily fit. If our approach is, it's a way to understand what's happening in an organized, clear way to find pukas, if it's that kind of tool, then reporting on progress looks and feels different than if it's this unifying document that's guiding policy, organizational and like funding decisions. And that might be a false binary, there might be other differences, but I think I'm getting a little bit tripped up there.
Well, by statute, the board creates policy. So if the board wanted to adopt it as the unifying document, that is up to us. I think that's a really good question we should keep thinking about. I don't know that. Let's keep thinking about it because we want to keep. Yeah, how do we keep moving forward? Because we know what's happening now. I also want to remind people that our subcommittees can have community members. So, we would be tapping on everybody who has the expertise in different arenas or whatever subcommittees the board decides to create. But
I didn't mean to like. I'm also excited about a lot of things in here.
No, I think, to everybody's point, there's
Yeah.
tension right now between something that is very lofty and meant as a guiding North Star for our state. I mean, it's very macro. And the tension between what a roadmap looks like either for this board or for the office. And without codifying that at this point, I think that's where at least, makes me a little uncomfortable as an organization that has mandates by the government as a nonprofit and how you have teeth, right, to actually move the needle on some of those things that we're supposed to accomplish. So I appreciate that tension, and also this group, right, being I think proactively aware of where we live in that and what the structure might be to help codify some of that. Prior to having the governor affirm this state plan, right? So kind of separating out that tension of the loftiness with what is feasible and realistic as a roadmap, as the practical roadmap forward. So I all of that to say, I totally appreciate what you're saying. And I think what we're faced with, yeah.
The November meeting, maybe bringing something.
Well, because if it's the unifying document, then we can have the subcommittees with community members working on parts of it, and at that full board level, it's really about like reporting, updating, monitoring. But if it's sort of a systems map tool, then it doesn't really live with the board at all. In a sense.
I mean, I'm thinking that the KPI framework would really inform that, because we're looking at key program indicator contributors. Who's in that space, who's gonna be actually providing data, or, as we start to analyze, how are we moving the needle down the road? Now, how does that interact with what we do here as a board? So we have I think as you build out each building block, that's kind of where we wanna put the capacity of work. It's like people who are already doing the work. And then they'll get reported out, and how our committees work, how we organize committees. Maybe we're a reporting body and saying, okay, are you in this space, getting reports from this space, getting report from these stakeholders? And what are they saying they're doing in their neck of the woods? But I think that has to be built out tremendously, the contributor portion of that.
Yes, yes.
That's like,
That's
whatever
where
that
we
is,
see
of course,
tons
right.
of potential,
I know,
so we're getting, yeah.
That one is glaring.
We're getting contributors right now from the building block members themselves, and then they also will say like, this person isn't here, but we know they're doing important work, can you call them in? But by no means do we think that this document would be best served by putting that in concrete and closing. It would be, when you think about mixed delivery system, you want the entirety of the community to feel like they not only contribute to this plan, but can be supported by this plan. And so that door should remain open for who is contributing to each of these building blocks. And so as it becomes public, like to answer your question about where is this living now and how can people see it? As it becomes public, and especially I think you'll see a wave of excitement and interest when you do your first round of data gathering and show, like, here's what we know about what's happening. That should come along with an invitation of who else is doing this work that's not yet represented here, and how can we bring you in the system.
I think that language though is where I'm stuck, because when you say, here's what we know about what's happening, that's really different than a dashboard reporting on the state of early childhood in Hawaii. And so that's where, because I, like to Steve's point, there are a lot of data points that we should, I think the one for our building block is like pages long. And so then is there a process by which we look across all those data points and say, okay, what can we come up with that is actually like something that we would report that reflects sort of this bigger picture goal or priority that we're working on? And then, so that seems like a lot of work for EOEL. But it seems like the right place for it to live. So that we're reporting on like 10 indicators, not like 100 indicators that are at like an organizational level. With data that are like different degrees of clean. And it kind of, it's making me think of Hawaii Green Growth. And I wonder if there's anything to learn from what they've done. They're a nonprofit that created a statewide reporting dashboard based on the UN Sustainable Development Goals. And so they're not out there making great jobs, but they did a whole process to figure out what are the metrics to report and how do they collect those data, how do they aggregate it. I don't know where any of that work is at currently, but I'm wondering if there's a lesson there for us to understand how do we go from this to something else if that's where we go. Yep.
So we at Hawaii P20 also, I think I've talked about this before, but there's something called Hawaii Graduates for Hawaii's Future, right? This was this collective goal that we set. And similarly, it's like we facilitate the data sharing and created the dashboard. There's an online dashboard, but it's got 4 goal areas: early ed, K-12, higher ed, and workforce. We kind of tried to distill it to a few things. In some places, the data is a little meh, and then in some places it's solid. But we serve as the hub, and without the authority, right? And so I mean, you guys can look at that dashboard. It's a little less, it's actually, even though it's complicated, it's much less complicated than this. But it's another example of like somebody taking a hold of reporting and facilitating and all that, but not necessarily having all the control, right?
Right.
And Yuko was involved in that process, the superintendent, the president of UH at the time, David Lasner. So anyway, that's another model, not just for folks to like look at, like, maybe one day we want, like, so, and that's why I get nervous about the number of KPIs, right? Cause it just might be setting us, or you do even if we get to like a place where we wanna codify or approve, we wanna figure out what level of approval. Cause also like, if we approve and then we go, this little KPI, we can't do it, or like, you don't want it to be so set in stone that it's not nimble. You wanna set the sort of macro picture. For us, with Hawaii Graduates for Hawaii's Future, we don't really exist in statute, we just do stuff. So like, with the approval process was like a high five, right? That's a little different than formally approving by a constitutionally, a legislatively established body, right? So anyway, just food for thought for folks to look at.
So I wonder, like, is this an opportunity to walk? Like, do we, instead of trying to sprint, like, do we call, like, this is a way to understand what's happening in early childhood now in this particular phase in December? And then Sulma was sharing earlier with me about like, what does EOEL need from infrastructure perspective to take all of these data points and then create the second phase, which is sort of more of that reporting dashboard phase, instead of trying to force that reporting dashboard phase to be ready or like at least prepared for a legislative ask by December.
The last iteration of a plan sounds like it was made and put on a shelf, which is what most of us experience in organizations, right? And so I'm just thinking through about, this doesn't have to be perfect. We're gonna do better than it being on a shelf. So what does that small step towards better mean? And how do we simplify? So if there's like 30, I don't know how many KPIs you're gonna be like sourcing from these 5-6 groups, right? Maybe we only choose less than 10, and who chooses them? Is it us that chooses them? Is it the committee? Like, I guess I'm unclear on that, but that's what I would offer is just the simplification of what we can do and how we can support. I like this idea of the hub and that model that you shared, because that could be then what EOEL is also known for moving forward, and not just seats, seats for preschool, that it's more around the system and understanding the system and being that hub for the network.
I want to make a comment just because I heard the word roadmap thrown out there. And I do want to go back because I believe we met about the early learning board roadmap. I believe it was in May in relation to, I guess, what the state plan is in terms of guiding the ELB. So I just wanted, I just had heard that term. And so I wanted to ensure, like, there is an existing roadmap, correct?
Yeah, we created one, I don't know how long I've been away from early learning board, but 2 years ago.
The original road, so the roadmap that was created by the prayer board is the roadmap that I report on every year, but I think it's good for the board to look at it again, if they wanted to. It was a report that was due to the legislature. They asked for roadmap. I believe that was like 2022.
Yeah, I think 22.
And so I'm still reporting on progress. A lot of those things have been achieved. And then there are some few things that were outstanding. I think I had highlighted that maybe a couple of months ago, things that have already been achieved and things that we're still working on. We're gonna still keep working on those things that are not yet achieved. But I don't know where state plan and roadmap and how the board wants them to integrate. They're not the same.
Yeah, I mean, my instinct is if we're gonna have a plan, we should probably be willing to drop some others. Right, or sunset them, I should say it nicer, right?
The roadmap is more of an implementation plan.
Yeah.
We're gonna be creating implementation plans again.
Yeah. You're gonna be cleaning it.
Well, the roadmap was very specific to operations.
Oh.
That's what that original
Oh,
roadmap was for. Specific more systems building. And so that's where, when we give our updates to the board, there was no real way, like how does EOEL update the board and talk about things? So we looked at early childhood systems and those big buckets, so like family, health, early childhood, what have you. And so we were doing that, and then we were also asked to give updates on the roadmap. But if you only do the roadmap, you're leaving out the systems parts. So we decided to do roadmap first, then system parts afterward, and that's how we've been doing it. Because if you only report on the roadmap, it's not system. And so, but this is systems pieces, so it could be combined or sunset or whatever it may be.
All right, I'm gonna pass out this stuff. I came with us to our desk slightly on. Thank you. So in our thinking, and we're in some ways ahead of this conversation, but backing up to where Brianna and I were thinking. Thank you, sorry. We want to reorient you all back to your mission and charge as the early learning board, which you're all very clearly well aware of and grappling with how already you jumped right to this. How does this fit in with our work and how is this helping us advance what we've been asked to do? So the early learning board is tasked with formulating statewide policy relating to early learning and then responsible for these 4 bullet points. And one of the things that we heard a lot about throughout this process, both the folks that we've engaged with since this summer and also, or since January, and then reviewing the needs assessment and the feedback from the prior state plan, was that tension between lofty goals and accountability. And what we heard over and over again is EOEL and ELB together are seen by the community as having the responsibility for making everything happen, but your authority is maybe more limited than people understand. So, right? So that the wish coming out of that was, okay, how can we have a state plan that elevates what the needs are, recognizing that this is not a top-down structure, but provides some sort of context for the board as a resource, as a tool to advise your work moving forward. And we are at the point right now where the pieces of the work are on the paper that we've shared with you. The goals and the action priorities have been reviewed and vetted multiple levels. We're continuing to go out and talk to community members to make sure. We also, if the door is not closed, if you're looking at those action priorities and think like, why is whatever? There might be something huge that you think like this plan is not complete. There's something very important missing from here. If we're going to use this to drive our work in any way. So want to give you an opportunity to look at that and share feedback. But we also wanted to just offer some buckets to guide your thinking. And these are the places that you all just jumped to right away. I think you picked up the plan and looked at it. So the document that I shared includes funding and policy, strategic communication, interest holder engagement, capacity building, and data use. So as you're thinking about how this plan can work for you, this line's for food. So go ahead, okay. Get those videos. All right. As you're looking at the plan and thinking about how it can be put to use, we thought it might be helpful to consider these 4 areas of sort of thinking about alignment and cohesion of the work that you do. Like when you're thinking about data, what data needs to be collected through this plan and in what way that will serve your role as early learning board members. How do you need to engage in strategic communication? How do you want to continue this very much iterative back and forth process with community members so it continues to be a state plan that is owned by and contributed to by the breadth of the mixed delivery system? And how can the plan guide you in thinking about where capacity building needs to happen? But I can see lunch is being set up behind us here. So what our working lunch will be, if you want to start putting your ideas down to this buckets, and then we'll have time for more conversation, and we'll let you dive deeper into self-selected topics after lunch. We'll give a couple minutes to set up and let us know when they're ready. And then we'll do a 30-minute working lunch. Elaine, is it okay if we go a little bit past?
Yeah, our board meeting starts at 1:30.
Okay, so maybe the break will be a little bit shorter. Okay. Any concerns with that? I don't want to send you into lunch feeling like we're never gonna get anywhere. Right? Okay.
Do you have a list of what we ordered?
Esther is very organized.
I was just gonna wait till the end.
Whatever's left, I got it.
No, 2 days later, when I'm like. I can't believe it.
In the bag, there's. We'll leave them in there.
Yeah. That is cool. The other story I was. I really love some your sausage. No, he said, I cannot. These are not. She should have stolen themselves.
It's like for everybody, I feel like this is what enthusiast. But I know that going in, so come, about November, December, it gets a little, yeah, we can take our breath. That's good.
Delicious.
We ready? Okay, yes, yeah. So, we'll invite Lisa, Steven, Stephanie, Cheryl, and Ben, if you wanna grab your. Find your delicious salads.
If not, I'm gonna work, so.
All sides.
So that
these are over here.
Thank you.
This is
just me.
Oh, wait.
They so good. Push their kids.
Go get Joni, Lindsay, Yoko, Dana.
Yeah.
You can grab your.
This one.
I'm kidding. Yeah, Beth, what's the other?
I'll just be sick.
Thank you.
School. Hey, yeah. I get like, this is a little like.
Oh, sorry. Not a cookie, it's pita bread. Sorry for the disappointment. I was like, are we feeling? Yes. Sorry, I was excited. Because it's just that there are.
Yeah.
I know,
It's so warm.
Yeah, it's like, it's all.
Yeah. And so. I think I ordered. I got it.
If I have like. I'll be asked for reason.
It should be flat. Reports to help me out. Sorry. And then their tomatoes, we weren't, they got theirs with, oh, no. Oh, it's there, there is. Even it's a Bluetooth, you don't need things. I'll be there. But I got a comment to them, you know.
It's a little different.
Yeah, I want to get all. So then they can present it. We can give them the collection and we can hold, and you're here, how much time do we say we met? I use them on, and then they can.
Yeah.
Think about it. We've said mushrooms there when you're probably one of them. Yeah, I don't do it. Oh, I like it. I think it's nice. Yeah. This is, sounds like, because I know that.
We're inviting you to return to your seats. You can finish eating, but we're gonna resume the last few minutes of your board retreat, and then we want to make sure to give you a little bit of break before you move into the formal board meeting. So Brianna and I and Yuko and her team had a quick huddle responding to what we heard from you before lunch. And we wanted to pursue the idea and carry forward the conversation around this tension of the two potential roles of the plan and how that mirrors the two roles of the early learning board and the two roles of EOEL. And so Yuko, I know we talked about a little bit, if you could share with the board the evolving roles and purpose of what this board has been asked to do and where they're at right now.
So we were having a conversation, and I think the struggle that I hear the board wrestling with is very similar to what EOEL wrestles with as well. We have direct control over the EOEL public pre-K program. And yet we are responsible also for the coordination of the whole system. And very similarly to the board, under the governance portion, predominantly, it has the control over EOEL. And also as the state's advisor has the broader scope of looking at the whole early childhood field. And so trying to see how you hold at least those minimally two roles and responsibilities at the same time to be in direct support of a thing and also looking at the broader scope at the same time. And so I was thinking about this dialogue that's been happening and thinking about the state plan and what role the board might have in terms of the direct connect to EOEL and the broad perspective of the whole system at the same time. And I'm also thinking about what are we committing to, what are we saying, what part are we going to hold and own or be responsible to? I was wondering if maybe that might help in terms of saying yes to this part that's directly EOEL and yes at the same time to support everybody who's had their voice in each of the building blocks up to this point. I was thinking about, well, there's going to be many KPIs. Also thinking about all the time and the commitment that everybody has put into this and to like reduce it to just only the direct responsibility over EOEL. I'm thinking about what happens to those people who have been sitting in this whole time. But also seeing like that we can hold two things at the same time. The EOEL holds public pre-K and the coordination, and then the board holds EOEL and also the broad system. And I think that that's just one thing I was thinking about, how we are similar and we wrestle with the same thing too, but also the perception of who people think you are, because the early learning board is not only EOEL. It is also the state's early learning advisory council at the same time. And so similarly, how people think EOEL is only public pre-K, but you know, like we also have the other aspect of our work. And then maybe this is an opportunity to show both roles that you can hold at the same time, even though they're different from each other. That's what I was thinking.
Some nods. Thinking. So when John, do you mind, or Elaine, can you put us back to the slide that's a KPI? One of the things that we wanted to offer to you as a board is, and we loved that, I forget where it came from, like we do have a deadline and a commitment for our funding to have a state plan by December. But how can we negotiate room to go slow, set this up in the way that's going to be most successful? So for KPIs, right now, this is the main piece of the document that you have in front of you, the goals and the action priorities. The KPI data, we were not intending to publish as part of the initial round. The initial round of publishing KPIs was a commitment from the community of these are contributors toward progress toward these goals. So they're not just goals that are going to sit on a shelf, like these are goals that people are already actually actively engaged in. We wanted to offer to you that initial publication of the state plan could include the collection of KPIs that we're collecting on the initial round from the committee members. And then for your next board meeting, you might want to ask EOEL to bring forward for your review and approval the specific KPIs that you all will be committing to holding yourselves and EOEL accountable for. So it's that mix of, it's not a state plan that like, we all want these things, but no one is responsible for them. And it's just gonna sit on a shelf. Moving that out of that space, which is what we had before, into this group, the part of your responsibility that is overseeing EOEL and the part of EOEL's responsibility, they can make direct commitments that you'll publicize. Like, yes, as a board, you can hold EOEL accountable for the progress that they're making for these pieces of the state plan, which would include opening preschools that would come under access. It would include how they're supporting their staff that would come under staff development. It would include the pieces where they're supporting family engagement and health. Under building block 6, the KPI that they would commit to would involve the collecting of the data to publish the annual updates to the state plan. And then as that data comes in, you'll see what folks who have been around the table have already committed to. But as that data comes in, you will have a period before it gets published to sit with that data, look at it, identify trends. That could be support that comes, the responsibility that comes from EOEL to inform how you use that data to tell the story of what's going on across the mixed delivery system. Thoughts, responses?
It sounds like, with what you just described, you're proposing. Can you re-propose in a way, in a couple of sentences?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So rather than having a collection of KPIs that we won't see any that KPIs that no one is being held responsible for, you'll have 2 sets of KPIs. The KPIs that come from EOEL that you are taking responsibility for and asking Yuko and her team to commit to. And then the broader KPIs, that is the other part of your board hat where you are supporting the entire system. You cannot take responsibility for those. They belong, that Juliana belongs to each of those agencies who are committing to do that work. But what you are taking responsibility for as the advisory council, as the convener, I don't have it up anymore, is keeping that story alive, keeping this plan active, making sure that the work that went into these common goals and action priorities stays at the center, and that you are continuing to elevate the work that's happening and put resources into identifying where gaps might be to inform legislature.
So those KPIs for early learning board to look at would be selected from the existing KPIs. The existing KPIs that are current, and we select the ones we feel resonates the most. Sorry, maybe I should go back. Is it a separate set of KPIs that you'll be looking at, or is it existing but just a select few under each of the goal areas?
It would be the KPIs under each of those goals and action priorities that would be identified as the set that belong to EOEL.
Okay.
I guess my question is, if there's KPI that's not in the Juliana of EOEL, but is not being met, what would we do then?
So your responsibility for those is just to collect and report.
So we wouldn't be commenting what happens next, or like.
I think as an advisory board, you will notice and comment on, if there was intention, but we're not seeing action. What are the barriers? What's going on? Is it lack of funding? Did a nonprofit shut down? Or did different priorities emerge? So your commitment would be to the collecting and the analysis of the data of what the progress is toward the state plan. And then with your other hat, your commitment would be toward the very specific KPIs that EOEL will be responsible.
Wondering, like, holding our, like, if we start at our responsibility is like understanding and supporting the health of the early childhood mixed delivery system here in FIE. A part of that is through EOEL and then through other means. What, like, might we look at what's in the plan and be able to say, what are the like handful, fewer than 10 things that give us a picture of the health of the system, right? So we can say, like, we've got the goals and the priorities, or if we look across this, like, if we were to have a dashboard, what are the 10 things that tell us to help with the system? And then of those, within each of those 10 things, like the one about child, family, health, safety, and well-being, EOEL may or may not have a role there. So that creates like a reporting mechanism for that particular metric. And there may or may not also be system components that help us think about how do we draft our policies or direct EOEL around convenings or put in funding requests. I feel a little bit funky about saying they're different KPIs because I think it creates this binary between the system and EOEL that we're trying to break down. But if we were to say like, here's our KPIs around access, when we have our board meetings, we ask EOEL to report on their portion of it. And we also, you know, use that in the rest of the information to understand what policies we might want to support EOEL and convening the full system around. So instead of like EOEL KPIs and everything else KPIs, it's like, these are the 10, yes, and here's how we look at them holistically.
You know, did all of the building blocks have members from all of the different departments? Because like for building one that I was on, we were always asked go back to whoever you're representing and see if they can commit to the goals and action priorities. So that was true for all of the building blocks.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, and completely agree, and I did not mean to present it as, they would be presented as these KPIs are somehow different or set aside, but in the question of what you all would be endorsing, what you are presenting to the governor for approval would be the commitment behind, you know, that's where you can identify out, these are the KPIs that EOEL, the ones that are tagged, because they're tagged, right? Head Start is responsible, is contributing this one, EOEL is contributing this one, so you would be perhaps asking you and her team to bring to you for your next board meeting, these are the KPIs that we think EOEL should commit to. And then your job would be to hold her responsible and her team responsible for that. Head Start may choose internally, like they've already had, like to Joni's point, they were asked to go back, are you comfortable committing to this? So we can mention in the state plan that this is something that you're contributing towards. Hopefully they're going back and having internal mechanisms to hold themselves accountable.
I think the hard part is that, the authority EOEL has around the early learning system, the majority of it is on the private sector, not on the public sector. So, you know, I don't know if in the perfect world, but anyway, you know, typically when you start something up, you kind of branch out, but EOEL came on when there was, like, there's all of these factions out there. People are doing early learning work. So how do you, I mean, I'm thinking about like Yuko then, if we pull out the stuff that's just EOEL, I don't know if that paints a big picture to us, the board, on really what the system looks like, because I think the system outside of what EOEL controls, the players, the people in that system is bigger than what EOEL is doing right now. And that's not a knock at EOEL, because they came into the picture, right? Late to, like, state wasn't doing anything related to early learning. So they're almost catching up, so to speak, I think, in getting in the game, expanding and whatnot. But it's the hard part is, because like even Head Start is not under EOEL gang. I just want to make sure everybody's clear about that. And the reason why I say that is because, like, I don't think Head Start should be one of those KPIs, because as I sit I'm an association president, but I have no authority over the 6 grantees. So if 5 of the grantees say, I don't know if we can do that or whatnot, you know, I can't. EOEL can't say anything, I can't say anything, because it's really their purview. So I think that's like, when I think about the authority piece, like Yuko and her department has limited authority over the early learning system, which I think is why the state plan was put together to cut, because we had to put everybody together to say, we want to build this system, we have this executive office, which is great now, it's kind of at, it's a priority and whatnot, but it's, and I don't have an answer, I just more wanted to kind of say, I think it's hard to figure out I don't know which KPIs. If there are KPIs tied to EO, I don't know if that would, for the board. It would basically paint a picture of what EOEL is working on, which is good. But I think the other pieces, the partnership pieces, that's the important part, because that's the people that are out there doing a large majority of the work. The home visiting program, the FCIL, the family childcare homes, the private providers, that's the workforce that we talk about. And the new workforce is the UEL, the charter pre-K. But that's a smaller picture right now. Eventually, I think it's gonna hopefully even out, but I don't know.
But even as much as EOEL would expand, I mean, every state mixed delivery system remains a mixed delivery.
Yeah,
system.
yeah. And I'm for mixed delivery, like that's the way it has to go, that's the.
I feel like we're talking about KPIs before we've established our goal metrics. And maybe that's part of the problem, like we're talking about these in the weeds KPIs. When maybe what we should be talking about, and I don't know if it's like turning these goals, I don't know if that's the answer, but into like a high level metric. Because the KPIs are gonna be in the weeds, but they're all supposed to build to a thing, and we haven't decided what the thing is that they're building towards.
So is that our responsibility because of the steering committee who's guiding the development of the plan? Because at that point, that means the board's going back and then picking and choosing elements of the plan that we want to support. One of the things I was thinking about is that building block 6 for the early childhood systems. And so I know for the early learning board, we're tasked with and responsible for promoting collaboration across agencies. So I think having the data sharing agreements to understand what data is available and out there is very important to determine whether or not we're meeting some of these KPIs. And then going back to another point that was made, if we're only measuring what EOEL is doing in relation to the state plan and things such as access to early care and early learning opportunities, if EOEL is expanding and it's showing a positive increase in programs and services, but on the flip side, if there's DHS licensed programs who are decreasing, that is also something that we should be tracking in order to say that there is 100% access. But just some of my thoughts in terms of having the data sharing efforts in place, and how this plan can be used to promote collaboration between these different state agencies.
Maybe it's the role of the steering committee to make these goals measurable. That the KPIs then somehow roll into.
We did that, and I'll back up and share why we did not go in that direction. That would be a complete restart of the effort that has gotten us to where we are today. There is no one agency that oversees all of this work. So there's no accountability to hold everyone to say, if you're putting your name forward and saying, oh, we agree to serve 30% more people. So it's not metrics in the sense of accountability. This is data that is helping paint the picture of what is going on across the mixed delivery system.
Is that the goal that we're working towards for EOEL, to create that system of collaboration for these state agencies that are responsible for the mixed delivery system? Like to continue to work towards that collaborative piece?
You can go back to the EOEL and ELB charge slide. Supporting an effective, coordinated, high-quality early learning system.
Yep.
So that coordination piece starts from having an understanding of what is going on across your mixed delivery system. And the difference between this and just a landscape analysis of what's going on out there is it's focused on, okay, what are your priority areas? What is emerging from the community as important goals that collectively we agree to work toward? And then what progress is being made toward those goals. But you can't coordinate if you have no idea what the other person is doing.
So I think we need to still think about Stephanie's original question about whether the state plan would become this unifying document for the board. And that we figure out, which is kind of sounding like where it's going, because we're looking at or discussing what KPIs would help us to understand that picture and identify gaps. And if it's, because if we want the state plan to actually be useful, it does have to live on beyond the steering committee, all the building block committees. So, how do we want to make that happen?
I mean, the nitty gritty of that could be that the folks responsible, the entities responsible for the, what do we call it, building block goals. We have to make sure that that's synergistic with what they're already intending. Right, like, cause if you're trying to impose a goal on Head Start,
Right.
then that's junk, like, that's not gonna work, I don't know.
Right.
And we don't have the authority to do that, but
Right.
if, in fact, that is in alignment with both their existing goals for their entity and the overall stuff, then we're not trying to hold you accountable, we just wanna collectively know what's going on
Right.
in our collective progress. But-
Right.
So like that, in the Hawaii Graduates for Hawaii's Future model, we had that conversation with the executive leadership and like, the Board of Regents metrics are the metrics, mostly. For one of the goals, one of the buckets, the DOE, like, so we had those conversations, and then the other part is like just knowing what's actually measurable versus what you'd like to measure. Right, that's the other piece of the puzzle, but like, the conversation was sort of iterative in that you had to be realistic, like, once we stamp approval. Like, are we gonna be able to measure anything meaningfully? But, you know, and is the entity gonna be, like, if we said to DOE, we need you to measure second grade reading scores. There's a problem, because there's no way to measure second grade reading scores, right? So they told us, no, okay, here's the way to do it, and like, so that collaboration around the KPIs was super important, because then it wasn't extra work, it was synergistic work. That makes sense?
Yeah, the synergy.
I'm glad you brought up the word, because I was gonna offer this as feedback before the 26th, I think the date is, but, I don't think the word synergy is used throughout, and it is, cohesiveness is, but it's different. And cooperation is, but it's also different. So I did wanna point that out, because I feel like in spirit of all of this, right, that there is a goal of synergy.
Yeah.
Probably getting into the weeds of the semantics, but, but it might be worth calling out.
Yeah.
Can we go back to your original proposal?
Yes.
And I'm just like thinking about time and stuff and what would be a potential, like, what is it that you need or we need right now in the next 7 minutes? To move forward, right? And so, I right now am comfortable, if you're comfortable with it on behalf of EOEL, to look at whatever the KPIs are and then identify which ones you think you would have authority over and ability for that meet this, that help to meet that. And if there's some that you're going, well, we can't do this, but we do think ELB, like advice, would benefit from keeping this on, and then we need to figure out a different infrastructure for reporting. That would be supportive. Also, I'm gonna just keep saying, we gotta simplify, like, not 30, not 100. It's like, what is doable or manageable? How does that sit when I just say that out loud? Does that sound, is that helpful?
Yes.
Is that, okay.
Yes, yes. So looking toward your next meeting, you'll hear from EOEL what KPIs, what their work are that could be shown as KPIs that align with the action priorities under the goals that are in this plan. And what you will need to think about and decide at your next meeting is, are you comfortable saying we're recommending this as the vehicle to move us forward in synergy, effective, coordinated, high quality early learning system. So one of the KPIs that's gonna come forward from EOEL is hanging on to continuing the work of collecting that data. You will have time. That data collection is gonna go on all year because we're using authentic data collection, not a survey that everyone has to fill out once a year. And what are you doing with the things that you said you would do? It's like, when do you actually collect this data and then share it with us? So you'll have time to look at that data and you'll have time to think about how does it make sense to present this in a dashboard where it's not overwhelming, but it does paint the picture of what's going on across the system, how you can balance that simplicity with the need for, it's really important for someone who's a mom and pop family childcare owner to see, like, I could be recognized as contributing to part of Hawaii state plan. So finding a way to balance that is not something that needs to be decided immediately. What you're going to be asked to do, I think, is, or decide for yourselves, are you putting a stamp of approval on this to go to the governor to say, yes, here's how our work aligns with the state plan, and yes, part of our responsibility as a board will be keeping this plan alive, collecting the data, publishing it every year, and using it to inform this system coordination piece of our work. So you have exactly 5 minutes left. And I think we will wrap up our time there. I want to go back to, we're gonna share pictures. We'll send pictures. We huddled during lunch, so we didn't put pictures in. But we wanted to end with an opportunity to think back to like everything that we did this morning. So from thinking about child development and play, and then thinking more deeply about your role as a board and what's coming to you from the state plan. We wanted to take an opportunity to just go around the room quickly for you each to share one word about what you're taking from this morning's work. So I'll give you a second to think about that. We'll put Elaine on the spot because we ask Elaine to do this all the time. So
I'm thoughtful.
thank you.
I mean, I am, thinking about the broader, and it's, sorry, more than one word, but just the, I think, relationship between, the togetherness aspect and kind of an overarching goal of, what synergistic might mean and what that might look like. Sorry, that's.
Relationships.
Perspectives.
It's more than one word, but a little better understanding.
So my one word is struggle, but the second word is productive.
Is hopeful.
Adaptability.
Parenting.
Somebody took my word, but I just said, mine was hopeful.
Excited.
Synergy.
Yes, was tangible.
Clarifying.
Articulation.
Right, well, on behalf of Brown and myself, our word is grateful. We were really excited to spend this time to get to know you all and looking forward to bring this work through to completion in December and seeing where you all take it from there. So ugly ho. And you run and get a drink of water before you start your horrible session.
Thank you so much for the